Chapter 42-45. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips tightly. Her eyes were bloodshot red. She didn't want it to be like this. But the Bloodbone Barbaric King obviously wanted to use the Bloodbones to control her. She hadn't forgotten until now how the Linglong Palace Lord was swallowed by these blood bones. She didn't want Diamo Xian to have any misgivings because of this. The man's breathing was getting heavier by the minute. Apparently it was because of the blood bone that had pierced into his body. What was scary was not the blood bone, but the thick blood on the blood bone, the blood that could corrode everything. If it entered a human's body, she didn't know what would happen. Thinking of the time at Linglong Palace, when Diamo Xian blocked the blood on the blood bone, his flesh was corroded. Thinking of the red flame, the blood on the blood bone, the corroded sharp claws. Yiqing Luo's heart was in a mess. She suppressed the panic in her heart and called out Diamo Xian's name softly, while feeding the pill into his mouth. But the Bloodbone Barbaric King obviously didn't give them a chance to breathe. After seeing Diamo Xian was hurt, he laughed sinisterly. Immediately it drove the densely packed blood bones to crazily entangle. The Bloodbone Barbaric King's target had always been very firm. Yiqing Luo only felt that the blood bone on her arm was like a big mouth, biting her hand tightly. She cried out in pain. Her body was suddenly pulled. The other arm, which was clasped in Diamo Xian's palm, slipped from the man's hand. Diamo Xian's eyes were sharp and he wanted to hold the young lady's hand again. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled and immediately put her hand over to Diamo Xian's stretched out hand. But their fingers just brushed past. The densely packed blood bones were like a woven big net, enveloping the two of them, separating Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian completely. Immediately following that, Yiqing Luo's body was suddenly pulled. Her back hit the hard blood bone. She was firmly fixed in place. The sticky cold touch spread all over her body. That head, which was embedded in the blood bone, followed the distinct joints of the blood bone and slid in front of Yiqing Luo. Such a close distance. He was so close that he could feel the Bloodbone Barbarian King's cold aura on his face. The barbaric blood bone monarch stared straight at her and smiled triumphantly. "Little girl, in the end, you won't be able to escape from my grasp." As his words fell, Yiqing Luo's intuition told her that horrifying face, which was just inches away from her, cracked into a treacherous smile. In the next instant, her vision turned black. His mind suddenly became blank. Vaguely, they seemed to hear Diamo Xian's cold and dignified voice. She could vaguely see a purple figure walking toward her. "Bloodbone Barbarian King, you dare to hurt her, even if this lord ascends to the heavens or dives into the earth. I will definitely crush your bones and scatter your ashes." Diamo Xian clutched his chest, his face filled with malevolent rage. The Blood-Bone Barbaric King's eyes swept across the young girl's face, which was as clean as a baby's. "Since you know about this god's matters, you should also know, how could this god bear to hurt her?" Diamo Xian's face was solemn and cold, a bloodthirsty murderous intent flashed past his eyes. His 5 fingers clenched so tightly that a cracking sound could be heard. The Bloodbone Barbarian King sneered. The sky was filled with blood bones, like a cicada's pupa, covering Yiqing Luo's delicate body. Immediately after, just like how it came, quietly disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. The black fog which covered the sky gradually dispersed, revealing a bright light. The moment Xian Gui's protective shield was released. Chapter 42-46. However, the only thing they could touch was air, as though everything earlier was just an illusion. Everyone's eyes were red as their fists were clenched tightly by the sides, as their chests were filled with resentment and suppression. He watched helplessly as Yiqing Luo was brought away. But they had no way at all. This kind of them, What rights did they have to become Yiqing Luo's backing? Yiqing Luo's backing. Overlord. The World Group's young man's voice was hoarse as he placed all his hopes on Diamo Xian. "Madam Qing Luoshi, she will be fine, right?" Just as he said that, Then, she was pulled by someone forcefully, stopping the young man from asking any further questions. Lu Xiaoyu pulled him back as she suppressed her voice. Don't poke the Overlord's heart. Something happened to Qing Luo. He is more anxious and upset than any of us. That's right. In this world, no one loved their Madame Qing Luo more than the Overlord. Even if it was themselves, they couldn't be compared to the Overlord's affection. No. There was no comparison at all. The world group suppressed the churning anxiety and uneasiness in their hearts as they looked at the man who stood stiffly on the spot, not moving at all. Even though the man didn't say a word. His expression didn't have any change at all. Everyone could feel. From the man's body, a deep magnetic field was emitted, as though it was going to envelop the entire world in darkness. Not knowing how much time had passed, Yiqing Luo slowly opened her eyes in her drowsiness. Perhaps she had been unconscious for too long. The minute she opened her eyes, her head started to feel an intense dizziness, so much that she couldn't help but shut her eyes tightly. Her glabella started to ache faintly. After recuperating for some time, she then felt slightly more comfortable as she tried to open her eyes again. Other than feeling weak and powerless, she didn't feel any other discomfort. Her throat was about to emit smoke as she felt extremely uncomfortable. She raised her hand and was just about to get up. A pair of soft little hands had already held onto both of her hands. Immediately following that was a lady's gentle and respectful voice. Eldest young miss, you're finally awake. When her hands were held by that soft little hand, Yiqing Luo's heart trembled. She actually wasn't able to avoid this person's hand earlier? Yiqing Luo's body stiffened, causing the lady to ask concernedly, Eldest young miss, are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere? This servant will immediately call the doctor. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as she sat up straight with the lady's support. She saw a girl in peach-colored clothes standing by the bed. She looked to be about 18 or 19 years old, and was looking at her with concern. He passed by the woman. This was an extremely luxurious room. The furnishings in the room were both noble and elegant. She frowned and stared at the woman. You are, as soon as he opened his mouth, his voice was as hoarse as a sawtooth. She coughed violently several times. The lady hurriedly brought a cup of warm water from the side and sent it to Yiqing Luo's lips while apologizing in a low voice. Eldest young miss, it's my fault for not taking good care of you. The water that entered her mouth was sweet and smooth. In an instant, his dry throat was moisturized and revitalized. The lady carefully supported Yiqing Luo to lean against the head of the bed, and with a plop sound, she knelt on the ground and kowtowed fiercely. Eldest young miss, please spare me this time. Yiqing Luo's head ached a little as she was baffled by this scene. Chapter 42-47. The lady carefully raised her eyes and took a look at Yiqing Luo. Seeing that she didn't have any intention to blame, and seeing her tightly knitted brows, she went forward to massage her head. The lady's technique was skillful and skillful. It made Yiqing Luo feel very comfortable. The lady spoke softly. Eldest miss, servant Gu Yun is the first household's maid who serves eldest Mississippi. Yiqing Luo had a bad premonition. What is this place? This is Bone Lord's residence. Gu Yun replied warmly. Bone Lord? Yiqing Luo's brows thumped as she suddenly opened her eyes and grabbed the two hands which were pressing on her temples. The Bone Lord you mentioned is Blood Bone Barbaric King? Shoo! Gu Yun's eyes widened as she carefully looked to the side. After confirming that there was no one else around, she whispered, In the residence, you must not mention this word. If Bone Lord heard this, even eldest miss might not be able to persuade him. Which meant, the Bone Lord that Gu Yun mentioned was Blood Bone Barbaric King? What on earth was going on? What was the Blood Bone Barbaric King trying to do by bringing her to this residence? Eldest miss, don't panic. I will inform eldest miss about the matters in the Bone residence. As long as eldest miss doesn't touch Bone Lord's bottom line, he will not bear to punish eldest Mississippi, Gu Yun said smilingly. Yi Qing Luo. The current situation was a little confusing, and she needed time to digest it. Eldest Miss must be hungry? I will bring the porridge up immediately. Gu Yun retracted her hand from Yi Qing Luo's. She got up and ran to the outer hall to bring the porridge. Yi Qing Luo's fingers grabbed. She lowered her eyes and looked at her empty hand. The expression on her face was somewhat grave. What was wrong with her? Not only could Gu Yun easily hold her hand, but she could also hold her hand. She could also easily break free from her hands. Could it be? Yi Qing Luo had a vague guess. She closed her eyes slightly and revolved her profound jade heart. Indeed, it was empty. Her body was empty, without the slightest fluctuation of energy. She clenched her fist, and there was no fluctuation of profound wave in her palm. Her energy had disappeared once again, and, this time, not only was she unable to activate the divine relic, even his own pet space could not sense it. Moreover, she was unable to sense the existence of Old Man Tsang within the Azure Dew bracelet. It was as if she was just an ordinary person right now. Apart from not being able to use profound strength, apart from being unable to control the profound energy, she had no discomfort anywhere else. This knowledge made Yi Qing Luo's brows creased even tighter. There was no need to guess. This must be the doing of the barbaric blood-bone king. What exactly does he want to do? Brought her to his territory. He even arranged for a maid to serve him? You're finally awake. Suddenly, a shrill voice came from the quilt. The voice was somewhat familiar, and the tone was also so familiar that it made people want to beat him up. Yi Qing Luo lifted the blanket. A little red head popped out from the bedding. That sharp mouth directly poked the back of Yi Qing Luo's hand. Why are you so useless? That peck did not hurt at all. Yi Qing Luo stared at the red bird about the size of 2 palms in front of her, startled. Qi Yen, you're here too? Qi Yen rolled his eyes in a bird style. This sacred beast is doing this for you. Yi Qing Luo hurriedly carried Qi Yen out from the quilt. Her gaze was fixed on its pair of claws. As expected. Chapter 42-48. Yi Qing Luo's pupils constricted. Her slender fingers gently touched Qi Yan's claws. However, even after a long time, he still couldn't touch its claws. Because of fear and because of guilt. Hey, ugly woman, what's with that expression? You're already ugly enough, now you look even uglier. Qi Yan flapped its wings, its tone was full of disgust. But as it complained, it flapped its wings and straightened its little body, its red eyes looked at her. This sacred beast is not as weak as you want to laugh, this little injury won't kill me. Although the words were not pleasant to hear. But it was obvious that she could feel it. Qi Yan didn't want her to worry too much, to feel too guilty. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips tightly, her hand slowly covered Qi Yan's body. The fiery phoenix feathers were extremely soft. She asked in a slightly trembling voice, "Does it hurt?" "No." Qi Yan raised its long neck. Yi Qing Luo gently took the little bird into her arms. Her lips were printed on Qi Yan's little head. Qi Yan was stunned and wanted to struggle. An extremely low and shallow voice floated down from the top of its head, making its body and mind soften. "Don't worry. I will definitely avenge you. No one can hurt my companion. No one can." Companion. Qi Yan's red eyes were in a trance for a moment. No one had ever treated it as a companion, as a sacred beast. This woman, although she was a little ugly, a little weak, a little useless, but she was its chosen master. And after all, she had her merits. "Eldest miss, the porridge is here. Let me serve you some porridge." Outside the door, Gu Yun walked to the bedside with a jade porcelain bowl. When her gaze fell on Qi Yan, she smiled. "Eldest miss, don't worry, your pet, Bone Lord has already treated it. It will recover in a few days." Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly. Qi Yan's claws became like this. Wasn't it because of Blood-Bone Barbaric King? Blood-Bone Barbaric King would treat Qi Yan's claws? It was indeed him who treated me. Qi Yan's voice was a little dull, obviously embarrassed. It was also very puzzled. Injured by Blood-Bone Barbaric King. The Blood-Bone Barbarian King had cured him again. Could this be considered as giving a sweet date after a slap in the face? Eldest Miss, Bone Lord still dotes on you. Gu Yun carried a bowl of porridge and came to the bedside. This is the first time this servant has seen Bone Lord attach so much importance to someone. Yiqing Luo stopped Gu Yun from feeding the spoon to her mouth. I'll do it myself. Be careful, it's hot. Gu Yun did not insist. Yiqing Luo took the small bowl and looked down at the medicinal porridge in the bowl. The fragrance was rich and extremely appetizing. Faintly, there was also a hint of the smell of medicinal herbs. It could be seen that extremely precious medicinal ingredients were used to boil the fire to a sufficient degree. As she drank, she looked at Gu Yun. Blood-bone, she had only spat out 2 words when she was stopped by Gu Yi's gaze. Yiqing Luo recalled what Gu Yun had said in this place. The barbaric Blood King didn't like to hear the 4 words, Barbaric Blood King. She pursed her lips and continued to ask, Where is he? I want to see him. Chapter 42-49. Taking care of her? Hearing this sentence, Yiqing Luo felt her hair standing on end. From the beginning, Gu Yun had used various phrases like Bone Lord values you, Bone Lord dotes on you, and so on. Yiqing Luo was almost suspicious. That so-called Bone Lord and Blood-Bone Barbaric King were not the same person. After finishing a bowl of porridge, Yiqing Luo's stomach finally didn't feel empty anymore. Her strength had also recovered a lot. She passed the bowl back to Gu Yun and lifted the blanket. She looked down at her sweaty clothes. Gu Yun put the bowl to the side and asked with great insight, Miss, do you want to take a bath? I'll go prepare now. Yiqing Luo nodded. According to Gu Yun, she had been unconscious here for 2 days. Early on at the cliff, she was entangled with by Mei and the rest, and then there was Blood-Bone Barbaric King. Her body was already sticky. After the bath, she braced herself and went out to see what kind of place this was. Gu Yun first left the room and came back after about the time it took for a stick of incense to burn. Behind her were 4 maids in uniform. Each of them held a tray with the necessities for bathing. Eldest Miss, please follow me. Gu Yun helped Yiqing Luo put on an outer robe and supported her arm. After walking out of the room, what came into sight was an extremely spacious loft. The trees were lush and verdant. A pond of clear spring was located on a rockery. At first glance, it was elegant and noble without losing its style. Just by looking at it, one would feel comfortable. The person who built this loft had good taste. Following Gu Yun, they turned into another long corridor. Along the way, they didn't see anyone else. When they reached the bathing area, the 4 maids neatly placed the things and left. Only Gu Yun supported Yiqing Luo to the side of the pool. In the pool, a thin mist curled up in spirals. Above the pool, there were pieces of flower petals floating, and mixed with a light medicine box. When the medicine entered her nose, Yiqing Luo could tell what medicinal herbs were placed in the pool. They were all medicinal herbs to strengthen the body and recuperate the body. How considerate! Yiqing Luo rejected Gu Yun's service and let her wait at the door. Stripping off her robe, Yiqing Luo stepped into the pool. The warm water washed away her fatigue. The faint fragrance of herbs and flowers lingered in the air. She closed her eyes comfortably. On the side of Qi Yan, a head popped out of his clothes. When Xiao Chen saw the young girl's face covered by the mist in the pool, her red phoenix feathers seemed to turn even redder. His little wings could not help but flutter a few times. Qi Yan. In the hot spring, the girl's voice seemed to be covered with a layer of water vapor. Qi Yan's phoenix feathers trembled. This holy beast didn't peek at you. Yiqing Luo. You're just a bird, so what if you peek? She turned over, put her hands beside the soup pool, and looked at Qi Yan through the dense mist. I want to ask you, what happened after I was in a coma? He woke up. She came to a strange place, meeting a stranger. She even became the so-called young Mississippi. She didn't understand what the blood-bone barbaric king wanted to do. Qi Yan was silent for a moment and shook his head. I was originally healing my legs in the pet space, but suddenly I was forcibly sucked out of the pet space by a force, and then I saw the blood-bone barbarian king. Chapter 4250. Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly. She understood the meaning of blood-bone barbaric king's words. In this unfamiliar place, blood-bone barbaric king had used some unknown method to make her lose her profound energy. Even her own divine weapon and anything that needed to be connected were all sealed. Except for Qi Yan. She really had nothing left. Bloodbone barbaric king would choose Qi Yan. It was probably because Qi Yan's claws had been corroded by his blood. Even though he had treated Qi Yan. In a short period of time, Qi Yan didn't have the ability to fight. Qi Yan replied, after he treated me, he threw me onto you, and then instructed others. You are the eldest Missy of this Gu residence. After a pause it added, what Gu Yun said earlier was not wrong. During the 2 days when you were unconscious, he indeed did not spare any effort to take care of you. Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo really couldn't understand this operation. Qi Yan rolled one round on the ground and rolled to the side of the pool. The red phoenix feather hit Yiqing Luo's arm, which was propped up on the pool. The warm water wetted its phoenix feather. It used its sharp beak to peck Yiqing Luo's arm. That's right, bloodbone barbaric king. May have some thoughts towards you. Thoughts? Yiqing Luo's slender fingers pinched its messy mouth. What do you mean? Qi Yan shook its head and broke free from Yiqing Luo's hand. It's you humans. The kind of thoughts a man has towards a woman, the kind of thoughts the Overlord has towards you. Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo rubbed her arm. Hashtag forming a CP with a head? Hashtag bloodbone barbaric king only had a head. And that age was right there. What kind of thoughts did a man have towards a woman? Qi Yan rolled his eyes at her. Who told you that bloodbone barbaric king's appearance only has a head? He has a body? Yiqing Luo had only seen bloodbone barbaric king twice, and both times it was just a head, with densely packed blood bones. Qi Yan, since he can freely control the blood bones, naturally he can use the blood bones to build a suitable body for himself. Yiqing Luo. Alright, I've learned something new. This is indeed the world of the big shot. Qi Yan raised his mouth again and poked her. Although I don't understand the love between you human beings, I have been influenced by you and the Overlord. In the past 2 days, the barbaric blood-bone king has been staring at you in the dead of night when there's no one around. That gaze. Tisk, it's like the gaze of a venerable emperor staring at you. Yiqing Luo was stunned. Suddenly, the scene of him facing off against the blood-bone barbarian king at the edge of the cliff surfaced in his mind. The barbaric blood-bone king looked at her. It was indeed strange. It was as if she was his most prized possession. At that time, she didn't think too much about it. Now that he thought about it, it was indeed a little strange, but what Yiqing Luo could confirm was, the blood-bone barbarian king's feelings for her were definitely not what Qi Yan had said, the so-called feelings between a man and a woman. As for what kind of feeling it was, at the moment she had no way of knowing. I can only wait until I see the blood-bone barbarian king and ask him personally. Qi Yan continued to talk about what happened when Yiqing Luo was in a coma. It was nothing more than the barbaric blood-bone barbarian king indeed attached great importance to her. This made Qi Yan even more suspicious of the barbaric blood-bone barbarian king's feelings towards Yiqing Luo. Just as he was talking about it, Yiqing Luo's hand that was playing with the soup suddenly paused. Who? A delicate rebuke came out from her mouth. Chapter 4251. Qi Yan's vision followed Yiqing Luo's gaze. A figure flashed past the door. It fluttered its wings and rushed out of the room. Very quickly, a man's groan and groan was heard from outside. Man? Here. There was actually a man? Didn't she not see anyone along the way? Yiqing Luo's brows creased slightly as she sensitively sensed the surroundings. She quickly got up from the hot spring. Her arms stretched out and the robe that was hanging on the rack slid into her arms. She quickly put on the robe neatly and walked out of the room. The first thing he saw was Qi Yan flapping his wings and pecking at a man with force. The man hugged his head, dodging left and right as he cried out in pain. It was mixed with a few curses. He even stretched out his hand, trying to catch Qi Yan to vent his anger. Perhaps it was because the pecking was too painful. That man's expression was sinister as his palm surged with a powerful profound wave, striking directly towards Qi Yan. Qi Yan! Yiqing Luo's pupils tightened as she immediately shouted, and stretched out her hand towards Qi Yan. Qi Yan spread its wings and nimbly avoided the man's palm and flew back to Yiqing Luo's body. Yiqing Luo caressed Qi Yan's phoenix feathers and heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that it wasn't injured. The current Qi Yan was probably the same as her. It could only maintain the size of this small pet. Furthermore, his power as a holy beast had been sealed. Who are you? Yiqing Luo held Qi Yan in her arms as she stared coldly at the man in front of her. The man had quickly retracted his palm the moment Yiqing Luo spoke and tidied up his appearance. When Yiqing Luo looked at him, he even straightened his back and put on a graceful look as he smiled at Yiqing Luo. Eldest young miss, Mr. Ren, why are you here? Suddenly, a hurried footsteps were heard. Gu Yun walked over with a tray in her hands. When she saw that man, the expression on her face turned extremely ugly. She went around to Yiqing Luo with a vigilant look. The man who was addressed as Mr. Ren fixed his gaze on Yiqing Luo as his lips were filled with smiles. Miss Yun, I heard that this Mr's fiancé has returned, so this Mr. naturally wanted to come over and take a look. What kind of person is this Mr's mysterious fiancé? As he spoke, he stroked his chin. Now that I've met her, I'm very satisfied with this fiancé of mine. Gu Yun's face turned even more ashen. She straightened her back and blocked the man's gaze. Regarding the engagement, Bone Lord did not personally state it. Young Master Ren, please conduct yourself with dignity. Don't ruin the reputation of my eldest miss. Ha ha ha. Miss Yun, Bone Lord has promised that whoever can rank first on the honor roll will marry eldest young mistress. In the entire old city, who else can it be other than me? The man's eyes were full of pride and complacency. Miss will be my fiancée sooner or later, won't you? Gu Yun was expressionless. The matter regarding the honor roll is merely a rumor spread by you and has nothing to do with Bone Lord. Moreover, Mr. Ren came uninvited and harassed eldest young mistress. Your behavior is that of a lecher. Bone Lord will not hand eldest young mistress over to you. The man's smile deepened when he heard that, there's no smoke without fire. If Bone Lord had not mentioned this matter, the outside world would not be so spread. Chapter 42-52. Facing Gu Yun's anger, the man totally disregarded it. His naked gaze stared at Yiqing Luo without any concealment. His eyes were filled with the man's evil smile. Earlier, although he had just neared the bathroom, before he could steady his footsteps, he was already discovered by Yiqing Luo. He was enveloped by a hazy mist again. But she couldn't stop his imagination. The young lady's face was devastatingly beautiful. Her fair jade-like skin was as smooth as a newborn baby's, and her pink lips were slightly pursed, as though she was seducing him. Thinking back to the scene just now, where the water vapor had blurred everything in a flash, he felt a chill run down his spine. The man's eyes were almost bursting with evil fire. This naked gaze made Yiqing Luo's slender brows crease tightly. Mr. Ren, don't go overboard. Gu Yun was infuriated by the man's shameless attitude as her face sunk. If this goes to Bone Lord, it won't end well. The man's expression changed slightly as his gaze also converged. But the gaze he used to look at Yiqing Luo was still that. Wretched. He laughed mischievously. Miss Yun is such an intelligent person, I'm sure you understand. If this really goes to Bone Lord, Eldest young Miss's reputation. Heh heh heh. He was laughing as he rubbed his hands. You! Gu Yun gritted her teeth as she stared at him angrily. Shameless! To be able to gain the beauty's eyes, what's the harm in being shameless? The man pretended to be suave as he swept the hair on his forehead, and even winked at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo. Huge poison. Ugly rejection. If it wasn't for the fact that her profound energy was sealed for some unknown reason, she would definitely raise her fist to punch him. Her disgusted gaze naturally fell into the man's eyes. The man laughed loudly instead. I believe eldest young Miss is very satisfied with this fiancé of yours. The last person who used such a disgusting gaze to look at me, do you know what happened to him? Yiqing Luo was expressionless. Could it be? Eldest young Miss kept him under your skirt? The man's gaze was fiery. Yiqing Luo continued expressionless. That person's grave grass is already 6 feet tall. Ha! Ha ha! The man was stunned for a moment before he realized the meaning behind Yiqing Luo's words, as he couldn't help but burst out laughing. This master is very satisfied with you as my fiancé, very satisfied. Gu Yun's face was cold as she directly raised her hand and blocked in front of Yiqing Luo, about to make a move against the man. The man suddenly turned around and left in another direction. He laughed as he walked. Gu Yun was so angry that she didn't know whether to put her hand down or not. Just like that, the man's figure disappeared from their line of sight. Even though the man had walked far away, his arrogant and excited laughter could still be heard. Gu Yun's expression changed again and again. Finally, he put his hand down. She pursed her lips and bowed her head towards Yiqing Luo to ask for forgiveness. Eldest young Miss, I'm sorry. It's this servant who didn't guard the bathroom properly, giving the scoundrel an opportunity to take advantage. It's this servant who didn't protect you properly. I'm fine. Yiqing Luo's gaze retracted from the direction where the man had left. She was suspicious of Gu Yun in the beginning. But just now, when facing that man, Gu Yun was serious about protecting her heart. If the man hadn't left in time, she was afraid that now, Gu Yun would have fought with the man for her. After being disturbed by the man, she didn't have the mood to return to the pool to soak in the bath. She directly beckoned Gu Yun to leave. Chapter 42-53. Gu Yun puffed up her cheeks, gritted her teeth, and said, That's the Ren family's second young master, Ren Jianming, one of the 4 great imperial families. He's an arrogant and despotic hedonistic disciple. 4 great families. Capturing this piece of information, Yiqing Luo's pupils unconsciously enlarged in shock. Gu Yun thought that she was afraid of the reputation of the 4 great celestial families and hurriedly comforted her. Don't be afraid, young mistress. If young Master Rin still dares to mess around, Bone Lord will definitely not let him off. Although the Bone Sovereign has not appeared for a very long time, his prestige and his legend are unstoppable. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes. He was completely dumbfounded. She didn't pay attention to what Gu Yun was saying. In his mind, he kept repeating the words, 4 great heavenly clans, 4 great families. 4 great families. Fuck, isn't this the heaven realm? 4 great clans? Xiao Jin, Pei Xing's main family, the Huangfu family, was also one of the 4 great families. The 4 great heavenly families that Gu Yun mentioned and the 4 great heavenly families that she knew should have 2 different meanings, right? Yiqing Luo's expression kept changing, becoming more and more steely green, and more gloomy. Gu Yun saw this and panicked. Missy, you really don't have to be afraid of young Master Rin. Even if he is the second young master of the Rin clan would definitely not dare to offend Bone Lord. The place we are at now, is it the heaven realm? Yiqing Luo interrupted Gu Yun's words, held her arm and asked solemnly. Gu Yun was stunned by Yiqing Luo's solemn expression as she nodded stiffly, yes. Heavenly realm. She was actually in the heaven realm. The barbaric Blood Bone King actually brought her to the heaven realm. What was he trying to do? What was his motive? What was he planning? Yi Qing Luo swallowed hard and let go of Gu Yun. I want to see him. That, he naturally referred to the barbaric blood-bone king. Gu Yun wanted to say something, but on seeing Yi Qing Luo's gloomy and ugly expression, she assumed that she was disgusted by Ren Jianming earlier and wanted to complain to Bone Lord. She didn't try to dissuade him. After sending him back to his room, she bowed and left. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Gu Yun came back with a strange expression. Yi Qing Luo looked behind her but didn't see the barbaric blood-bone king's figure. Her expression darkened even further. Gu Yun deliberated over her words and comforted, "Eldest Miss, Bone Monarch just sent a message back. He has something to do outside and needs to be busy for a few days. He will probably only return when the honor list opens." Yi Qing Luo. He dared to bring her to the heaven realm. Afraid to come out and see her? Yi Qing Luo started to suspect that the barbaric blood-bone king was hiding some huge secret in secret. Her face darkened, and the coldness in her eyes grew colder. Gu Yun hurriedly continued, Bone Monarch also ordered. Everything in the Gu residence will be managed by Eldest Mississippi. In the heaven realm, Eldest Miss doesn't need to fear anyone. You just need to be yourself. As she spoke, Gu Yun took out a domino from her bosom. Complex totems were carved on the dominoes. It was also faintly emitting a cool aura. With just a glance, one could tell that this was no ordinary object. Gu Yun passed the bone token to her. This is Bone Lord's token. This token can mobilize all the forces in the bone residence. Yi Qing Luo, the barbaric blood-bone king, was really ambitious. He directly handed over the control of the bone residence to her. Wasn't he afraid that she would directly take over his forces in the heaven realm? Chapter 42-54. Fight out, very good. This is the style of the bloodbone barbarian king. It seemed that Gu Yun's hatred for Ren Jianming was quite deep. Yi Qing Luo received the bone tile. It felt as if he had touched a block of ice. But very quickly, it was assimilated by the warmth of her fingertips. She held the domino card and looked it up and down. Her long and narrow eyes raised slightly. What did you mean by the wind cloud list just now? Why did he only come back when the wind cloud list opens? Young mistress doesn't know about the excellence list? Gu Yun's face was full of shock. This honor list is the most prestigious competition in our heaven realm. It is held once every 3 years. If you want to become famous and be loved and respected by others, then you must participate in this honor list. Only the top 100 will be chosen in every ranking list. As long as you can squeeze into the top 100, you will be in the top 100 of the entire heaven realm. Some people are favored by the heavens. If they lose on the excellence list, they will be abandoned. If someone has been miserable since a young age and is abandoned by others like a pair of worn-out shoes, if one can obtain a place on the honor list, then from now on, his future will be bright. The honor list determines a person's status, fame, and strength in the heaven realm. After Gu Yun explained in detail, she looked at Yi Qing Luo in astonishment. Why doesn't eldest young miss know about the wind cloud list? Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips and cursed in her heart. Can I say that I was forcibly brought from the earth realm to the heaven realm by your master? I'm completely clueless about anything in the heaven realm, okay? He complained in his heart, but he still put on a serious expression. I'm not interested in the wind cloud list. The surprise on Gu Yun's face was replaced by a smile. Eldest Miss has Bone Lord as her backing. Even if she is not on the wind and cloud list, all the great clans in the heaven domain have to respect Eldest Mississippi. Yi Qing Luo expressed that she didn't want the backing of the barbaric blood-bone king. As for Bone Lord's current whereabouts, this servant does not know. Gu Yun answered Yi Qing Luo's second question. Bone Monarch had not returned to the bone residence for a long period of time, and there are many matters in the outside world waiting for Bone Monarch to settle, so Bone Monarch missed his appointment with eldest young Mississippi. Yiqing Luo's eyelids drooped as she pondered over the deeper meaning behind Gu Yun's words. For a very long time, logically speaking, the blood-bone barbaric king had always been sealed in the earth realm. Where did this heaven realm power come from? If it was a force from 10,000 years ago that had been passed down to the present, it was absolutely impossible for him to have such a reputation in the heaven realm even now. Judging from Gu Yun's tone, the four great heavenly clans were all afraid of the existence of the Bone Mansion. This meant that, although the barbaric blood-bone king's forces in the heaven realm had been established for some time, they were still in the modern era. It seemed like the barbaric blood-bone monarch was hiding a lot of secrets. When will the ranking start? Yiqing Luo raised her brows and asked. Gu Yun, 1 more month. 1 month, in other words, the barbaric blood-bone king would not return within a month? Did he really trust her to manage his power for a month? He wasn't afraid when he came back. All the forces have rebelled? Or the forces were all destroyed by her? Where is the main entrance? Yiqing Luo asked again. Gu Yun pointed in a direction. Yiqing Luo tossed the bone tablet into the sky and caught it tightly, stuffing it into her sleeves. Let's go! She strode towards the main entrance. Gu Yun hurriedly followed. Eldest miss, where are you going? Chapter 42-55. The two figures gradually distanced as they walked out of the Gu residence. Two figures silently appeared at the place where Yiqing Luo and Gu Yun were standing earlier. One was tall and straight like a mountain. The other was petite and slender. The lady's slightly dissatisfied voice rang. Gu Yi, why must Bone Lord pamper such a lady? Other than having a face which is still passable, which part of her is worthy of Bone Lord? Don't talk nonsense. The man who was addressed as Gu Yi berated sternly with a solemn expression. Bone Lord naturally has his own reasons for choosing her, and it's not up to us to make irresponsible remarks. I'm just feeling unhappy. The lady's eyes turned red from the berating as her voice turned softer. We can obviously follow Bone Lord to do things, but it's Bone Lord who arranged to protect such a weak lady. Enough. Gu Yi's face turned cold. We only need to obey Bone Lord's orders. Saying that, his figure swayed as he disappeared into thin air. The lady pouted her lips as she snorted indignantly. Aren't you feeling indignant as well? Why are you showing me that face? Ridicule was just ridicule. She was still very quick as she caught up to the man's figure. And all these, Yiqing Luo, who had already left the Gu residence, had totally not noticed it. Her attention was attracted by the prosperous scene in front of her. This heaven realm was indeed the upper realm's middle-level realm. The passers-by, no matter if it was the street vendors or the passers-by, all of them were cultivators with dense profound energy. These cultivators could be randomly picked out and placed in Nirvana realm. They were all legends who were worshipped like gods. Gu Yun followed behind her, not leaving her by even an inch. And the passers-by, when they saw Gu Yun, all of them respectfully took a detour. Whereas for Yiqing Luo, who was able to make Gu Yun wait on her, naturally became the topic of discussion. I heard that Lord Bone Lord brought his niece back to the Gu residence, that young lady. Is Lord Bone Lord's niece? In the entire old city, who else can make Miss Yun take care of them so carefully? Previously, when I heard the news of Lord Bone Lord's niece, I thought it was fake, but I didn't expect. Lord Bone Lord really has a niece. The passers-by were all discussing. All sorts of discussions went past Yiqing Luo's mind. Then, her face darkened. He stopped and turned his head to look at Gu Yun. He asked with a dark expression, Niece. When did she become the niece of the barbaric blood-bone king? She was still wondering why Gu Yun and Ren Jianming kept calling her Missy. The blood-bone barbarian king had announced that she was his niece? Eldest Miss had lost her parents at a young age, and it was Bone Lord who had placed Eldest Miss in the dark to take care of her till now. Rather than saying he's a niece, this servant feels that Bone Lord is more like Eldest Miss' father. Gu Yun didn't hear the uneasiness in Yiqing Luo's words, but instead explained with a smile. Father? Father my ass. The Bloodbone Barbarian King really knew how to make up her identity. He had created such a persona for her. However, after hearing what Gu Yun said, Yiqing Luo was more or less able to accept the persona of niece. At the very least, it was better than the father and daughter persona. She had to call the Bloodbone Barbarian King daddy? Sorry, I can't do it. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and forced herself to accept the niece persona. In any case, this persona allowed her, who had lost her profound strength, to still be able to use her connections to intimidate others in the Heaven Realm. Chapter 4256. Under all the attention, Yiqing Luo could only pretend not to see it. Many of the cultivators were not only curious about her identity. On top of that, she had a breathtakingly beautiful face and a unique temperament. Along the way, there were at least 100 cultivators following behind Yiqing Luo's, but some were in admiration, some were in discussion, but it was probably because of Gu Yun's presence. No matter how curious they weren't within 5 steps away from Yiqing Luo. But the current tranquility didn't represent true tranquility. Based on Yiqing Luo's vivacious physique, how could she possibly have tranquility? As expected, just when the surroundings were in a state of chaos, a shrill and resentful little voice was heard. Get out of the way, this princess would like to see who this niece of Bone Lord who suddenly appeared out of nowhere is. When the cultivators heard this voice, they subconsciously moved their bodies aside. The expressions on their faces were very strange. When Gu Yun heard this voice, she couldn't help but muttered softly, "Oh no!" Her footsteps also speedily turned in front of Yiqing Luo, blocking her figure. Yiqing Luo raised her eyelids and her gaze fell onto this obviously slender but resolutely blocked in front of her back figure. The strange emotions between her brows softened. Very quickly, the crowd dispersed to the 2 sides, revealing a path. A 15 or 16-year-old lady walked over with elegant and confident step. Her chin was raised high like a high and mighty empress, looking down on all living beings. The lady was dressed in a luxurious dress, with a bouquet of flowers. There were several layers of skirt, from the inside to the outside, making her every step look like a lotus. Until the lady stopped in front of Yiqing Luo. The distance between the two of them was just 2 steps apart. The lady gave an exquisite low laugh. Her expression was slightly sinister and distorted. That pair of arrogant beautiful eyes sized up Yiqing Luo from head to toe. Just one look. The lady's eyes overflowed with jealousy. But very quickly she laughed coldly. "You are the niece that Bone Lord mentioned?" That tone was full of disdain. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly but didn't reply her. The woman was silent for a long time, but she did not get a response. Her expression immediately stiffened. Bone Lord's niece only has this much capability? This little ability, that little ability? Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she replied in a good mood. The woman clenched her fists tightly and her knuckles creaked. "You're courting death," she rebuked angrily as her face revealed a ferocious expression. With a backhand, she struck out a palm directly towards Yiqing Luo's skull. Although Yiqing Luo had lost her profound energy, but his body retained the habit of fighting and his own senses. In the instant that the woman raised her palm, Lin Fan's eyes widened. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the dense profound energy that was released from the lady's body. But she couldn't dodge. The profound practitioners who were watching the show in the surroundings watched with folded arms and only cared about watching the show. Or perhaps, he did not think that Bone Lord's niece was not a profound practitioner. All of them had the intention to probe Yiqing Luo. Moreover, in the Heaven Realm, it was extremely common for people to fight in public, especially when it was nearing the critical juncture of the chart. Various powerhouses, large clans, large sects, etc., had all sent out their most outstanding geniuses. It could be said, the entire old city, at least 80% of the geniuses were gathered. Any disagreement and they would start fighting. Any disagreement and they would start fighting. Chapter 42:57. Swish, in the air, the sound of the profound wave flowing was like a surging wave in Yi-Ching Luo's ears. She could obviously sense the energy coming towards her. Her body wanted to avoid it, but her body's reaction couldn't keep up with her own feelings, because there was no fluctuation of profound energy in her body. How could ordinary people avoid profound cultivator's attack? Her thoughts were whirling. The incoming palm wind was like a hot knife through butter, rushing over with the speed of lightning. Bam! In the air, there was an explosion of vibrations. The slender figure in front of him easily grabbed the arm of the person who was approaching. 5 slender fingers, but it had an irresistible pressure. It was Gu Yun. She just used one hand to block the lady's attack. Effortlessly and effortlessly. Gu Yun, how dare you! The lady stared at Gu Yun angrily, as though she couldn't wait to skin her alive. Gu Yun didn't move at all as she tightened her grip on the lady's wrist. This servant is under orders to protect eldest young miss. No one is allowed to hurt a single strand of eldest young miss's hair. Since she's Bone Lord's niece, then she should bring out her ability and prove her ability in front of everyone, so that everyone will be convinced, isn't it? The lady was filled with righteous indignation. In addition, she was treated like this by a maid in front of so many people. She had lost her dignity as a member of the royal family. Her face turned red and she angrily rebuked. You offended me like this, are you trying to offend me? Gu Yun remained unmoved as though she wasn't threatened by her at all. Princess's words are different. Eldest young miss is Bone Lord's niece, and also someone whom Bone Lord has acknowledged. Even if she doesn't have the ability, she's still Bone Lord's niece. No one is allowed to bully and humiliate her. Her words paused slightly as her gaze turned cold as she stared at the lady in front of her, saying word by word, including, Princess. The lady's expression instantly turned steely green as her eyes were filled with a venomous glint. She struggled, trying to break free from Gu Yun's hand. But she was held tightly by Gu Yun, totally unable to break free. She was flustered as she scolded, Gu Yun, don't get carried away just because you're the maidservant in charge of the Gu residence. No matter how high your status is, you're after all a servant. The lady's words made Gu Yun's expression change slightly. But it was only for a moment. Princess Xiaozhu, you don't have to worry about me. This servant will naturally report today's matter to Bone Monarch and personally apologize to him. Gu Yun's face was expressionless as she spoke in a cold voice. You. The lady was infuriated, but she was unable to struggle free from Gu Yun, so she could only use her eyes to stare fiercely at Yi-Ching Luo. As Bone Lord's niece, you're such a waste. What a disgrace to the Bone residence. Yi-Ching Luo, who was standing behind Gu Yun, raised her brows slightly. Her long and narrow eyes were half closed, looking extremely lazy. This only served to further accentuate her alluring beauty. Towards the lady's indignant words, Yi-Ching Luo didn't bother much about it. Her focus was on Gu Yun. Just now, the woman who called herself this princess made her move. Yi-Ching Luo could clearly feel the majestic and powerful profound wave energy. Even if she hadn't lost her profound strength, it would be difficult for them to even put up a fight. However, Gu Yun easily subdued him. Moreover, he didn't give his opponent any chance to retaliate. This Gu Yun has unfathomable strength and is very mysterious. Such a powerful person was actually just a maidservant in the Gu residence? And she even tried her best to take care of her and was extremely respectful. Yi-Ching Luo suddenly felt. Was it really good for her to waste a big shot like this? Chapter 42:58. The clamor and the atmosphere immediately attracted the attention of many people in the surroundings. Someone saw an exclusive scarlet blood BMW outside the crowd. It's actually Princess Xiaozhu. Who provoked Princess Xiaozhu? So daring, does she not want her life anymore? I heard that it seems to be the niece that Lord Bone Lord brought back. Lord Bonelord's niece? How did these two people get into a fight? Tisk. Princess Xia Zhu had always been the most respected lady in the old city. Now that Lord Bonelord's niece entered the city and replaced her position, how could Princess Xia Zhu not be angry? Sigh. This is the era of competing for background. Princess Xia Zhu's background is not as good as Lord Bonelord's niece, so naturally she can only give up her position. The surrounding profound practitioners, on the other hand, were discussing happily. That Lord Bonelord's niece seems to be a waste without any profound energy. Earlier, when Princess Xia Zhu made her move, it was Miss Yun from the Gu residence who helped her to block it. Waste? It can't be? How could a waste come to the heaven realm? Lord Bonelord is so powerful, how could the lady that he personally brought back be a waste? Instantly, the public opinion took a turn. On the basis of the 3 outer layers, another 3 layers were added. All of them wanted to see what was the disparity between the most respected number 1 lady in the old city and the newly appointed number 1 lady. Yiqing Luo more or less heard the surrounding people's discussions, and more or less understood the reason why the lady in front of her suddenly went up to find fault. It was merely because she was used to being arrogant and couldn't accept a lady who appeared out of nowhere and snatched away the glory that belonged to her. No matter if it was the lower realm or the heaven realm, power and status were what the cultivators pursued and yearned for. Eldest Miss, I'm sorry, I'll settle Princess Xia Zhu immediately and won't disturb your mood. Gu Yun held Princess Xia Zhu as she spoke to Yiqing Luo warmly. Settle, these 2 words were a little insulting to this high and mighty princess. As expected, after hearing Gu Yun's words, Princess Xia Zhu was so angry that her face flushed red, green and white. Gu Yun, if you dare to offend your superior, I will immediately get someone to kill you. Gu Yun's face was expressionless, showing no signs of fear. A cold light flashed across Princess Xia Zhu's eyes. She glanced at the crowd and was about to speak when she heard a clear and sweet voice. Gu Yun, let her go. It was the niece of the Bone Lord. Princess Xia Zhu's pupils contracted as she stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. Gu Yun was slightly stunned as she looked at Yiqing Luo in puzzlement. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a sweet smile. In this place where the strong are respected, if you don't have the ability, you will indeed be doubted by others. Especially for Princess Xia Zhu's side, she's a heaven's pride, a powerful person. As she spoke, she deliberately emphasized the word, powerful. His gaze swept over her arm, which was clamped by Gu Yun, in a mocking manner. His tone was filled with obvious mockery. But Princess Xia Zhu apparently didn't hear Yiqing Luo's implied meaning. Hearing Yiqing Luo praising him, his face immediately revealed a complacent expression. Of course, ever since I was young, I was known as the genius child of the old city. I've devoted myself to cultivation and spent so much effort to get to where I am today. The people around them couldn't help but burst into laughter. Genius child? Devoted herself to cultivation? Chapter 42-59. It was simply too embarrassing. But after the laughter, everyone turned their faces away and pretended to be serious, not letting Princess Xia Zhu find out. After all, the other party was Princess Xia Zhu. They still wanted to live on. Between the 2 of them, no one could be offended. Just let them be quiet and expressionless onlookers. Towards the sudden laughter of the crowd, the sudden seriousness, Princess Xia Zhu indeed didn't notice the deep meaning behind it, as all her thoughts were placed on Yiqing Luo. Eldest Miss. Gu Yun revealed a difficult expression as she glanced at Princess Xia Zhu hesitantly. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she smiled at her. No matter. Gu Yun pursed her lips and finally listened to Yiqing Luo's command as she let go of Princess Xia Zhu and turned around to return to Yiqing Luo's side. At the same time, Princess Xia Zhu's eyes turned cold as a sinister gaze flashed past. The moment Gu Yun let go of her and turned around, Boundless profound rays gathered on both palms as it struck down towards Gu Yun's back. Be careful. The moment Princess Xia Zhu made her move, Yiqing Luo noticed her actions. Subconsciously, she grabbed Gu Yun with one hand and pulled her over. The other hand drew out a dazzling red ray. Clang! The sound of the palms colliding resounded. Gu Yun's reaction was swift as she quickly grabbed Yiqing Luo tightly and brought her out of the range of the profound wave. When she turned back, a rare look of astonishment surfaced on her face, only to see the place where she was standing earlier. The profound wave's rays continued to expand as it spread in all directions. But it was stopped in midair as it was unable to attack towards their direction no matter what. Taking a closer look, Gu Yun saw, in that profound wave, a feather fan which was like a raging flame went against that profound wave. It actually forced that profound wave to retreat. Feather fan? What was that? It seemed that it was thrown out from eldest Miss's hands. Just at this moment, the profound wave was forced to retreat. That feather fan also fell from midair. Glower flame fan. Yiqing Luo opened her palm towards the glower flame fan, but she who had no profound energy was unable to use it freely. A dong sound was heard. The glower flame fan fell onto the ground. The red glow flickered for a moment before disappearing. There was a strange silence all around. Everyone stared at the red feather fan on the ground in astonishment. Other than the fact that it was made of precious materials, it was just an ordinary item. However, this ordinary object had actually blocked Princess Xia Zhu's all-out attack just now. Were they seeing things? Princess Xia Zhu was also shocked. Glaring at the red feather fan on the ground, he felt as if he was going to spit fire. When Gu Yun moved, she headed towards the devouring flame fan. Princess Xia Zhu suddenly reacted and shouted sternly, "Snatch the fan back for me." As soon as Princess Xia Zhu finished speaking, outside the crowd, 5 men in tight clothes suddenly flew out and quickly rushed toward Gu Yun. The 3 of them stopped Gu Yun. The 2 of them quickly approached the glowing flame fan. Gu Yun's eyes turned cold. Profound ripples surged as she slammed her palm towards the person who was blocking her. She could tell. The eldest Miss attached great importance to the feather fan. Just now, the eldest Miss had thrown out that feather fan in order to save her. She would never allow Princess Xia Zhu to snatch eldest Miss's feather fan. Thinking of this, Gu Yun's expression turned even colder as her 5 fingers clenched tightly. The profound rays suddenly shook, and those 2 men had already rushed to the side of the glowing flame fan. They stretched out their hands in that glowing flame fan. Ah! Chapter 4260. A fiery red shadow like a fireball. Just as that man withdrew his hand, the glower flame fan on the ground had already disappeared. The men quickly looked towards the direction of the red shadow. They saw a little bird, fluttering its wings, hanging in its mouth, was that red feather fan. So, that man shrieked miserably and withdrew his hand. Was he pecked by this bird? Damned bird! The well-dressed men quickly flew towards the bird. When that red shadow appeared, Yiqing Luo's pupils suddenly tightened. It was Qi Yan. When did it fly over to the glower flame fan? Yiqing Luo quickly stepped forward and took Qi Yan into her arms. Qi Yan placed the glower flame fan in Yiqing Luo's hands and snorted coldly, "In the end, I still have to do it, you're really useless." Yiqing Luo rubbed its fluffy phoenix feathers and whispered, "Next time don't act on your own. What if you get injured?" "I will get injured? What a joke. A human who can injure me has not been born in this world." Qi Yan proudly raised its little head. Yiqing Luo pinched its injured paw. "Wait till you've recovered, then say this again." "Qi Yan, this is your war pet?" Princess Xia Zhu's sharp voice was heard. Yiqing Luo hugged Qi Yan tightly and raised her eyes vigilantly. But she saw the surrounding people, looking at her with extremely astonished and horrified eyes. No, to be more precise, they were staring at Qi Yan in her arms. Especially Princess Xia Zhu's eyes. It was even more fiery. "Eldest young miss, Gu Yun seemed to have realized something as she forced the three men in front of her to retreat and speedily returned to Yiqing Luo's side as she grabbed her arm. "Oh no. I forgot to remind eldest young miss. You must never let anyone know that eldest young Miss Pet can speak human language. I will escort eldest young miss back to the Gu residence now." Yiqing Luo understood. These people were shocked that Qi Yen could talk to her? When they were in Nirvana realm, a war pet that could speak human language was indeed eye-catching. In this heaven realm, there were very few war pets that could speak human language. Gu Yun had the intention to bring Yiqing Luo away. But Princess Xiaoju's vision was already glued to Qi Yen. "Want to leave?" Her lips curled upwards as her figure speedily closed in on Yiqing Luo. Compared to the feather fan, she was more interested in the battle pet that could talk. Gu Yun swiftly protected Yiqing Luo and retaliated with a palm strike. Both sides took a few steps back. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and placed it on Gu Yun's shoulder. She curled her lips, patted Gu Yun's shoulder lightly, and shook her head slightly. Gu Yun's pupils shook. She looked in the direction of Princess Xiaoju. "Eldest miss, this servant is worried, since Bloodbone Monarch has already announced my identity. He will naturally not watch as I am bullied. Bullying me is equivalent to insulting the Bone residents." Yiqing Luo explained softly, "Since she's feeling indignant, then let her give up." Give up? In the heaven realm, if you want to make someone give up or kill the man. Otherwise, he would be above that person, leaving no room for that person to turn the tables. But how could eldest miss do these two things? Gu Yun had been serving Yiqing Luo and naturally knew that Yiqing Luo had no profound energy. This was a place where strength reigned supreme. How could Yiqing Luo, who had no profound energy, suppress Princess Xiaoju? Yiqing Luo smiled, till her eyes were curved. "Believe me." The young lady was obviously smiling, and her tone was extremely gentle. But Gu Yun inexplicably felt a chill down her spine. Chapter 4261. The hand which was blocking in front of Yiqing Luo was slowly put down. She believed in eldest Mississippi, and believed in Bone Lord's trust towards eldest Mississippi. Seeing Gu Yun retreating, Princess Xiaoju's eyes flashed past as her lips curled into a cold arc. "Now, this princess thinks highly of you." She paused and curled her lips coldly. "Since you want to seek your own death, this princess shall fulfill your wish. After killing this so-called eldest miss, that battle pet which could speak human language would belong to her." Princess Xiaoju had no intention to conceal the murderous intent in her eyes. Gu Yun watched from the side, unable to restrain the anxiety on her face. But when she saw Yiqing Luo's indifferent expression, she suppressed the urge to rush up. But her body maintained a vigilant posture, ready to rush up if Yiqing Luo was no match for her. "Your Highness." Beside Princess Xiaoju was a maid who looked to be in her 20s. From her dressing, she should be Princess Xiaoju's personal maid, as she called out to her in a low voice. Princess Xiaoju restrained her imposing manner slightly as she turned her head to look at the maid. "Yu Ying, what's the matter? This person cannot be killed." The maid who was addressed as Yu Ying moved closer to Princess Xiaoju's ear as she lowered her voice. "Although the Emperor has the intention to suppress Bone Lord's power, but this can only be done in secret. If your Highness kills Bone Lord's niece, it would be equivalent to offending Bone Lord." Princess Xiaoju's expression congealed as the murderous intent in her eyes gradually dissipated. But her expression was still gloomy. "Then what should we do?" Yu Ying muttered to herself for a moment as she glanced at Yiqing Luo from the corner of her eyes. "This person relies on Bone Lord and is arrogant and despotic. Your Highness just needs to teach her a lesson. After this, if Bone Lord blames you, Your Highness just need to say that it was eldest miss who insisted on being strong and initiated to provoke you. These commoners present can all testify. As for Your Highness, you just don't know that she is a waste and didn't stop in time." Hearing Yu Ying's words, Princess Xiaoju's face revealed a complacent smile. She raised her hand and patted Yu Ying's shoulder lightly. "All right, I will do as you say." Immediately, Princess Xiaozhu turned around and looked at Yi Qing Luo with a sinister smile as her lips curled. Without any explanation, the palm wind surged and struck towards Yi Qing Luo's face. Princess Xiaozhu was extremely fast. Yi Qing Luo only felt that a hurricane was raging. The bone-piercing cold wind brought along a tyrannical force as it came crashing down. She could feel Princess Xiaozhu's movements. He could feel the arc of her attack. Not far away, the two figures hidden in the dark looked at the scene in front of them hesitantly. The man's face darkened when he saw Princess Xiaozhu make a move, and there was some disdain in his eyes. However, he still spat on the ground and prepared to charge forward with a cold face. Still not moving, however, his arm was pulled back by the lady behind him. "Gu Yi, didn't eldest miss vow to prove her strength and make Princess Xiaozhu retreat in the face of difficulties? Since she's so capable, why do we need to do anything?" The man's body stiffened. His gaze fell on the young girl who stood there motionlessly as if she had been scared silly by Princess Xiaozhu's attack. His expression turned even uglier. "If anything happens to her, Bone Lord will not let us off," he said. The lady gave a cold snort. "We are merely helping her to prove her strength. She is the lady chosen by Lord Bone Lord, and she doesn't even have this bit of ability?" The man's gloomy face remained expressionless. Chapter 4262. To tell the truth, towards this eldest young miss who suddenly appeared. In the entire Gu residence, other than Gu Yun, no one was willing to accept her wholeheartedly. Especially the two of them, as secret guards of the Gu residence. They couldn't follow their master to dangerous places to protect their master's safety, but were arranged to stay in the Gu residence, to protect this eldest young miss's safety at all times. How could they remain calm in their hearts? Especially this eldest young miss, who wasn't someone who didn't make others worry. They arranged to protect eldest young miss because they naturally knew that eldest young miss was a waste without any profound energy. So be it if she was a waste. Anyway, she had Bone Lord's protection. As long as she was safe and stable, she would definitely have a place in this heaven realm. But this waste still wanted to create trouble, and even provoked Princess Xiaozhu. Did she really think that she was someone? Seeing Gu Yi's expression changed, the lady's lips curled coldly as she took the opportunity to say, "No matter how unruly Princess Xiaozhu is, she is after all a member of the royal family, so she wouldn't be so silly to really kill eldest young Mississippi. Why not take this opportunity to teach her a lesson, in case she finds out that we are secretly protecting her, and create more trouble unscrupulously?" The lady's words had completely hit the bottom of Gu Yi's heart. In the end, the two of them didn't move as their gazes shifted onto Yi Qing Luo. Bam! In the air, there was a dull explosion. The surrounding stalls which were set up on the streets were overturned because of this riot. The powerful chi waves were like tornadoes. It completely engulfed the young lady who was standing there. Eldest young miss. Gu Yun's pupils constricted in shock as she stared intently at the surging whirlpool, her eyes burning with a raging fire. She clenched her fists tightly as she speedily dashed forward, wanting to dash into the whirlpool and bring eldest young miss back. At the same time, the two figures who were hiding in the dark swiftly flew over. When she saw the two of them, Gu Yun was only slightly stunned, as she didn't have any extra thoughts to ask why the two of them were here. The three of them speedily dashed into the airwave. They hadn't even taken a step. Suddenly, the three of them paused, as if someone had pressed the pause button. Not a single one of them moved. The three of them had the same expression, filled with shock and disbelief. In front of them, profound waves were surging. A figure that was like a raging flame was faintly discernible. Not long after, the figure was getting closer. The fiery red dress followed her footsteps, as if she was stepping on a fire lotus. The girl with a luxurious aura had an extremely faint, mocking smile on her face. It's eldest miss. Eldest Miss was actually safe and sound under Princess Xiaoju's attack? What was going on? They were not the only ones who were shocked and astonished. The onlookers were all dumbfounded by the number 6. Eldest young Miss. Gu Yun was the first to react as she swiftly rushed to Yiqing Luo's side and pulled her to size her up. Seeing that Yiqing Luo only had some minor abrasions on her body, she heaved a sigh of relief. Eldest young Miss, you're too reckless. If Bone Lord were to find out about this, he would definitely punish this servant. Yiqing Luo's breathing paused. Enduring the stifling feeling in her chest, she raised her long and narrow eyes and fixed her gaze in the direction that was enveloped by the profound wave. He seemed to have seen something. Her pink lips curled into a faint, cold arc, as though filled with malice. Chapter 4263. Yiqing Luo smiled as she held Gu Yun's hand. I said before, trust me. Her enchanting eyes seemed to sparkle with a dazzling radiance, as though it was filled with energy. Gu Yun pursed her lips tightly as her hand, which was holding the young lady's hand, unconsciously tightened. It showed her anxiety and uneasiness at this moment. Eldest young Miss, enough is enough. The lady who was standing by the side stared at Yiqing Luo with an ugly expression. That time was a fluke. That was because Princess Xiaoju saw that you are Sir Bone Lord's niece, so she showed mercy and escaped once. Do you really think that you are very powerful? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she squinted her eyes, sizing up the lady in front of her. The lady raised her head arrogantly. You should not know our identities, He arranged to protect my secret guards in the dark. Yiqing Luo directly interrupted the lady's words as she continued her sentence with a smile which didn't look like a smile. The lady was stunned as her brows knitted tightly. How did you know? Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laughed. Do you think that everyone is like you? Retard? You. The lady's face turned green as she raised her hand and pointed at Yiqing Luo angrily. I am just reminding you not to cause trouble for others because of your own selfish desires. Pausing for a moment, she intentionally returned Yiqing Luo's words back. Don't think that everyone is like you, too free to do anything. You have nothing to do and you are a waste. Why don't you obediently stay in the Gu residence and be your ornament? Why must you take up our time? The lady's heart was suppressing too much anger. At this moment, looking at the safe and sound Yiqing Luo, she pretended to be unfathomable and finally exploded. Gu-san. Gu Yun's face darkened when she heard that as she shouted the lady's codename. The lady who was called Gu-san snorted coldly. You are like a dog, sticking to a waist. I don't have the time to serve her. Gu Yun opened her mouth as she wanted to say something, but she was held back by the young lady as she smiled and shook her head at her. Eldest young Miss. Gu Yun's expression was complicated as she looked at Gu-san and then at Yiqing Luo, feeling somewhat guilty for letting eldest young Miss hear these words. Yiqing Luo pulled Gu Yun behind her. His footsteps slightly moved, slowly walking towards Gu-san. The smile on his face grew wider as he approached. Gu-san's pupils constricted, and he subconsciously retreated 2 steps. What do you want to do? I'm just telling the truth. First. Yiqing Luo raised a finger and gave a smile which didn't look like a smile. I do feel that I'm very powerful, at least I still have a brain. Not waiting for Gu-san to scold him with a red face, Yiqing Luo had already interrupted her as she raised her second finger. 2. What I want to do is my freedom. May I ask? This secret guard, what position are you using to restrict my freedom? Her lips curled into a sneer. Third, if you have any dissatisfaction with protecting me, you can directly reject the person who issued the order. If you don't have the guts, then shut your mouth. Gu-san was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He stared at Yiqing Luo with an infuriated gaze. Fourth, the smile on Yiqing Luo's face was suddenly tainted with some treachery. Gu-san still did not understand the meaning behind that smile. Pa! A crisp sound rang out. Gu-san only felt a burst of fiery pain on his face. like a fire, scorching her face. You dare to hit me?" Gu-san covered his face as he gritted his teeth and stared at Yiqing Luo. Chapter 4264. As a secret guard of the Gu family, it is your duty to obey the orders of the Gu family. Yiqing Luo shook the fourth finger. "Gu Yun is just more loyal than you. If I hear you say anything bad about Gu Yun next time, it will not only be a slap on the face." She smiled nastily. Her eyes were filled with a treacherous arc. It made her look like an Azura from the dark night, especially when that pair of smiling eyes fell on her, as if she was in an ice cellar. It was as if even his soul had been seen through by someone. Gu-san's eyes turned red as his body trembled. She wanted to kill this slut. Gu-san's anger burst out a strong murderous intent. The burning pain on her face kept telling her she had been humiliated by a waste. She raised her hand, the profound waves surged as she was about to strike. Gu-yi, who was standing by the side, suddenly saw something. His expression changed as he quickly stretched out his hand to grab Gu-san's arm. "Are you done messing around?" Gu-yi shouted. It made Gu-san's entire body stiffen up. She felt even more wronged. Her eyes filled with tears, looked at Gu-yi aggrievedly. Gu-yi was expressionless, his face solemn. "Enough!" Another shout rang out. Gu-san bit his lower lip as he unwillingly shifted his gaze. Gu-yi glanced at Gu-san, then expressionlessly cupped his hands towards Yiqing Luo. "Not appearing in time, we should be punished. Indeed should be punished." Yiqing Luo bluntly said, "Let her come over and apologize to Gu Yun. As for you," Yiqing Luo sized up Gu-yi, "as the leader of the secret guards, you don't have the ability to manage your own subordinates, which means you don't have the ability to take on this heavy responsibility, so the responsibility of the leader of the secret guards will be handed over to Gu Yun." "Based on what?" Gu-san was furious. "Ask her to apologize to Gu Yun? Dream on. And vainly trying to usurp Gu Yi's position?" Yiqing Luo smiled indifferently. "Based on the fact that I am the eldest miss of the Gu residence, and you are just a secret guard." Immediately, her smile became more radiant. Only this radiance added some viciousness. "Not convinced? If not, then leave the Gu residence." "Is that your goal? You bitch!" Gu-san's angry roar did not have time to finish. Gu Yi's face darkened as he forcefully pushed her head in the direction of Gu Yun. Then, he lowered his head and said word by word, "This subordinate will obey First Miss's orders." After saying that, he untied a wooden token from his waist and handed it to Gu Yun. Gu Yun saw the wooden token which represented the secret guard's captain appearing right in front of her eyes as she hurriedly looked towards Yiqing Luo. "Eldest young miss, you can't do this. How can I take on this heavy responsibility?" "You mean, there's something wrong with my eyesight?" Yiqing Luo raised her brows. "This servant doesn't mean that, it's just that, I told you to take it, so take it." Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered to listen to her rejection as she directly snatched the wooden token from Gu Yi's hands and stuffed it into Gu Yun's arms. Even Gu Yun was scared silly. Just like that, he had inexplicably become the leader of the Bone Mansion's Dark Knight? Looking at Gu Yi's gloomy face and Gu-san's malevolent and distorted face, Yiqing Luo rubbed her chin, expressing that she was extremely satisfied with this arrangement. Very good. On the first day of taking charge, she had successfully seized power. What a great start! Clap for herself. Chapter 4265. That calm and composed look, as though the position of the leader of the Dark Guards belonged to her. This made Gu-san's expression contorted. This lady was just too arrogant. Relying on Overlord, she had nothing to fear. His heart was still feeling indignant. Beside him, his arm tightened. Gu-san looked over and saw Gu-yi with a sunken face as he shot a glance at the other side. He indicated for her to look over. Gu-san followed his gaze and looked over. Instantly, the malevolent expression froze on her face. A trace of astonishment surfaced on her face. The direction that Gu Yi was looking at. It was the direction where Princess Xia Zhu and Yi Qing Luo had crossed hands earlier. The raging hurricane had gradually dissipated. It also allowed everyone to see clearly. A slender figure sprawled on the ground, not moving at all. That figure. Wasn't it Princess Xia Zhu? This knowledge immediately set off 1,000 layers of huge wave. All of them looked at the figure sprawled on the ground in disbelief. How could this be possible? Gu San was the first to cry out in shock. This cry made the others regain their senses. That's right, how could this be possible? How could Princess Xia Zhu possibly lose to Bone Lord's niece? Bone Lord's niece's body obviously didn't have any profound energy fluctuations. Why was it that when the both of them crossed hands the earth shook? Bone Lord's niece was safe and sound. Princess Xia Zhu instead. Lost? What on earth had happened? Something that they didn't know about? Could it be that Bone Lord thought of a way to hide his niece's profound grade in order to protect her? Actually, Bone Lord's niece was a hidden top exponent. In everyone's mind, there were already numerous guesses. Your Highness. The palace maids who followed Princess Xia Zhu then realized that this battle was their princess's loss. Yuing led the group of palace maids as they rushed towards Princess Xia Zhu. Yuing helped Princess Xia Zhu up, but saw that there wasn't any injury on Princess Xia Zhu. However, Princess Xia Zhu hung limply in Lin Mingyao's arms, as if she had lost all her strength. Yu Ying's pupils contracted as she immediately held onto Princess Xia Zhu's wrist. After checking her pulse, Yu Ying's expression immediately sunk as she stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo's direction. Eldest young miss, what have you done to the princess? It was obvious that Princess Xia Zhu was not injured by anyone. Instead, he was poisoned. That woman had poisoned Her Royal Highness. Despicable and shameless. Hand over the antidote. Hearing Yu Ying's stern shout and questioning, only then did the onlookers understand. As it turned out, this first young miss of the Gu residence had poisoned Princess Xia Zhu? She sure had guts. He actually dared to do such a risky thing. As expected of someone from the Bone Mansion. I'm the only one who thinks that. Eldest young mistress, being able to poison Princess Xia Zhu without anyone noticing and successfully escape unscathed from Princess Xia Zhu's attack. Is she very powerful? Among the onlookers, someone suddenly spoke up. At the very least, it's enough to prove First Miss's strength. As soon as these words were spoken, many people chimed in agreement. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as her gaze shot towards that onlooker who had just opened his mouth. That person didn't notice Yi Qing Luo's gaze. After everyone agreed, that person took a look left and right and quietly left. That person? Whose person was he? What motive did he have to intentionally stir up the pace here? Although, what that person said, we're all helping her to lead the onlookers. Chapter 4266. Yu Ying's expression turned gloomy as she listened to the surrounding crowd's flattery and echoing. She raised her eyes and gritted her teeth as she stared at Yi Qing Luo. Eldest young miss, harming a relative of the royal family is a huge crime. If this matter reaches the Emperor's ears, even if Bone Lord personally pleads for you, it wouldn't be that easy. If eldest young miss hands over the antidote now, Princess will let bygones be bygones. I want to kill her. Princess Xia Zhu was so angry that her entire body was trembling. She wanted to open her mouth and point at Yi Qing Luo to scold her. But she couldn't muster up any strength at all. Even when he spoke, his voice was very weak, as though the next moment she would stop breathing. Princess Xia Zhu was angry, frustrated and embarrassed. In front of so many people, she, the dignified Princess Xia Zhu, was plotted against by a trash without any profound energy. If this news were to spread to other powerhouses, her reputation as a princess would probably be completely gone. The more she thought about it, the more her anger burned. She couldn't wait to burn Yi Qing Luo into ashes. Your Highness. Yu Ying's eyes turned red. Her princess had never suffered such humiliation. Yu Ying, who felt sorry for her princess, stared at Yiqing Luo, eldest young miss. The main character who was threatened and intimidated time and time again. Her brows rose slightly as her long and narrow eyes curled into a coquettish arc. Her lips curled into a smirk, as though she was watching a good show. On the surface, he looked calm and at ease, as though he was completely at ease. Which part of her looked like she was being threatened or intimidated? This leisurely look, as though she was showing off, made Yu Ying's tightly clenched fists to the point of cracking. Now, you're the one begging me. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards with some evilness. This is your attitude of begging others. Yu Ying's pupils constricted as her face sunk. Eldest young miss, are you determined to blow this matter up? Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders disapprovingly. From the beginning till the end, don't you have any idea who is the one causing trouble? Using the Heaven Realm's emperor to suppress her? Previously, when the king of the Earth Realm appeared, she wasn't afraid, all right. In the end, what do you want? Yu Ying asked patiently. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. You're the one who requested me. Do I need to tell you what to do? So insincere? Yu Ying. Beg my ass. She had never seen someone as shameless as Yiqing Luo. Since you don't have any sincerity, then make way, don't disturb my mood of shopping. Yiqing Luo waved her hand. With a look of disgust, she lifted her feet and prepared to leave. How could Yu Ying let her leave so easily? Such a big thing had happened, and she still wanted to go shopping? How could this young girl be so strange? He absolutely could not be allowed to live. Yu Ying signaled with her eyes. Among the crowd, the royal guards who had been standing guard leaped down from the heads of the onlookers. All of them stood in front of Yiqing Luo, blocking her path. Gu Yun immediately guarded Yiqing Luo vigilantly. The expression on her face changed from the days when she received the wooden token to a stern look. I don't have any evil intentions in coming up with this plan. I only hope that eldest young miss will hand over the antidote. Yu Ying stared at Yiqing Luo, warning her word by word. Yiqing Luo snorted lightly. This formation doesn't seem to have no evil intentions. Chapter 4267. The girl's voice was light and sweet, with a hint of playfulness. However, Yu Ying didn't hear any playfulness in his words. She only heard a strong provocation and sarcasm. Princess Xia Zhu suddenly grabbed Yu Ying's arm with all her might. Her breathing was very heavy, and her voice was intermittent. Force her to hand over the antidote. She really couldn't stand the feeling of weakness. It was as if he had become a cripple. Since that slut refused to hand over the antidote, then he would use force. She wanted to see how much poison that slut had on her. Yes, Your Highness. Yu Ying obeyed Princess Xia Zhu's order. She glanced at the Imperial Guards and repeated Princess Xia Zhu's words. The Imperial Guard did not hesitate. When the command was heard, those royal guards who were blocking in front of Yiqing Luo directly raised their hands and struck towards Yiqing Luo's neck. Its speed was extremely fast, and its momentum was ferocious. Bang! Profound ripples lingered on Gu Yun's body. She pushed out a palm wind with both hands, sending the Imperial Guards who were surrounding her flying. The boundless profound energy was like a stormy sea, rolling wave after wave. Yiqing Luo, who was standing behind Gu Yun, was shocked by the vibration in the air. Gu Yun, she was really strong. It could be said that other than Dmo Xian and the people behind the Nether Palace, he was the only one she had met who could be considered as a strong existence. The violent wind violently blew against the skin on her face. However, it did not cause any discomfort. She didn't know if it was because she still had the body's instincts, or because this body had already been cleansed and was no longer immortal. Or perhaps the barbaric blood-bone king had done something to her when he sealed her power. When facing these powerful profound waves and majestic auras, he did not feel any pressure at all. There was no tightness in his chest or the feeling of his internal organs being squeezed. Gu Yun's palm strike caused Yu Ying's expression to freeze. She stared at Gu Yun with a probing gaze. Yu Ying lowered her eyes and looked at Princess Xiaozhu, who was being supported in her arms. She spoke again. A few people will trap Miss Yun. The target of the others is the first miss of the Gu residence. The formation of the Imperial Guards changed, and a few of them quickly surrounded Gu Yun. Following that were the 3 royal guards, charging towards Yiqing Luo. They were extremely fast, like a hot knife through butter. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly, but had no intention of avoiding him. In the blink of an eye, the 3 Imperial Guards had already reached out with their hands. At this moment, the calm-looking girl suddenly raised her head and smiled at the 3 of them in a sly manner. That smile could definitely be called treacherous. Her smile was beautiful. However, when they looked at it, they felt an inexplicable chill, as if something had drilled into their hearts. What was that? The 3 Imperial Guards were startled. Just as he was about to raise his hand and press on that strange feeling, suddenly, all 3 of them fell to the ground at the same time. This scene left the onlookers dumbfounded. What happened? Why did those 3 royal guards fell onto the ground before they could even touch Yiqing Luo? Her symptoms seemed to be exactly the same as Princess Xiaozhu's. So to speak, this was the live version of how Yiqing Luo dealt with Princess Xiaozhu? Previously, Princess Xiaozhu's profound wave was too strong, and the hurricane it created had obstructed everyone's vision. Everyone had yet to see clearly what happened after Princess Xiaozhu and Yiqing Luo's exchange of blows, and it had already ended. This time, they were able to see everything clearly. Chapter 4268. Yiqing Luo hadn't touched those 3 royal guards at all. How did the royal guards get poisoned? Facing the crowd's questions, the 3 royal guards were all in a daze. Huff huff. Princess Xiaozhu was infuriated by this scene as she grabbed Yu Ying's arm tightly. She wanted to scold Yiqing Luo for being shameless, but she couldn't say a single word. Yu Ying patted Princess Xiaozhu's shoulder lightly as she comforted her gently. But when she raised her eyes and looked towards Yiqing Luo's direction, her gaze was as though it was laced with poison. Eldest young miss of the Gu residence is really awe-inspiring. Awe-inspiring? Just putting you scums down, what awe-inspiring about that? There's no sense of accomplishment at all right? Yiqing Luo spread her hands out as she turned one round on the spot. Her red dress fluttered like a butterfly's wings as it fluttered. The young lady was smiling. Why don't we try to see if you have more men or I have more poison on me? Her words paused as she gave an evil smile. Or should I say, let's see if your princess can hold on till you snatch the antidote from me. This was a blatant provocation. Yu Ying's brows were covered in a haze as her gaze swept across. Very quickly, there were a few royal guards pressing towards Yiqing Luo. The crowd's eyes widened as they stared fixedly at Yiqing Luo. They wanted to see clearly how Yiqing Luo made her move. But, just as the few royal guards were closing in on Yiqing Luo, which was the most crucial step which everyone was staring at, a tall figure descended from the sky as he landed in front of Yiqing Luo, and directly blocked those royal guards. That man raised his hand and waved his sleeves as a few fists were hammered down with a bam, bam, bam. The few royal guards were all sent flying. Following that man brushed his hair as he raised his head and gave a self-proclaimed suave smile as he turned back to look at Yiqing Luo. This master is here, eldest young miss, don't be afraid. Yiqing Luo looked at the man who suddenly appeared. Such a Chunibyu entrance, such a Chunibyu script. Was there something wrong with him? What's there to be afraid of? Did she look like she was afraid? Second young master of the Ren family? Why is the second young master of the Ren family here? He's helping niece Bone Lord? What is the relationship between second young master Ren and Bone Lord's niece? Why would second young master Ren help her? I heard that Princess Xiaozhu is in love with second young master Ren and has been chasing after him. Second young master Ren should be more familiar with Princess Xiaozhu. Why would he help Bone Lord's niece? The appearance of this person immediately caused the onlookers to boil with excitement. The second young master of the Ren family was extremely famous in the old city. It had both a beautiful name and a beautiful name. This reputation was because the Ren clan's second young master was blessed by the heavens. He was born into one of the heaven realm's 4 great families, the Ren clan, and was recognized as a cultivation genius since he was young. Others would need to cultivate for a month to complete this. He only needed 10 days to half a month to complete it. It could be said that the second young master of the Ren family was the kind of person who walked ahead of ordinary people. This strength and talent led to his frivolous nature. He loved to eat, drink, and be merry, as well as to linger in the bushes of flowers. In any case, even if he were to play and wander around, he wouldn't be able to do so, and no one was able to chase up to his footsteps. It could be said that even if they knew that the second young master of the Ren family was a hedonistic disciple, he was still the target of admiration of many young ladies. Chapter 4269. Hearing Ren Jiaming's name, Princess Xiaozhu, who was extremely weak, struggled to raise her head. His gaze fell on Ren Jiaming. She moved her lips weakly. Brother Ming, however, the man whom she missed dearly, did not even look at her. His vision had always been on Yiqing Luo's side. From Princess Xiaozhu's angle, she could clearly see that when Ren Jiaming looked at Yiqing Luo, his eyes were brimming with interest and the curvature on his lip. Big Brother Ming is very interested in that slut. Brother Ming had taken a fancy to that slut. The thought caused Princess Xiaozhu's expression to turn hideous. Facing Princess Xiaozhu's scorching and vengeful gaze, Yiqing Luo expressed that her heart wasn't affected at all. She narrowed her eyes and looked lazy. She looked at Ren Jianming, who suddenly appeared and wanted to be a hero to save the damsel in distress. He didn't show any other emotions. Ren Jianming, who thought he was handsome and elegant, was speechless. A furious slam. Why wasn't this woman following the script? How was he going to pick up girls? Generally speaking, when a girl was saved by a hero in a time of crisis, shouldn't she be unable to repay him and could only devote herself to him? Can't eldest miss give me a little bit of the reaction that a woman should have? However, Ren Jiaming's inner roar didn't reach Yiqing Luo's ears. Yiqing Luo calmly retracted her vision, and without saying a single word, she directly lifted her leg and walked past Ren Jiaming. Was he treating the second young master of the Ren family as heir? Ai, eldest young miss. Eldest young miss. Ren Jiaming was also stunned by Yiqing Luo's actions. He hurriedly moved his body and blocked in front of Yiqing Luo. Eldest young miss, I've saved you, don't you have anything to say to me? Yiqing Luo shot a glance at the person who was blocking her. Save me? Are you sure it's to save me? There was a hint of mockery in her half-smiling eyes. Ren Jiaming laughed out loud as he stared at Yiqing Luo with an even more fervent gaze, although this young master was indeed standing by the side and watching the show not too long ago. But, after all, I was the one who personally beat these royal guards to the ground. Naturally, it can be said that I saved you. Ren Jiaming was extremely thick-skinned. Facing Yiqing Luo's ridicule, he totally didn't put it to heart. Yes, this Ren Jiaming should have been watching the crowd from the beginning, from the direction where Ren Jiaming appeared. Yiqing Luo saw what happened earlier. Using the fact that she had poisoned Princess Xiaozhu, she had spurred the crowd's tempo and made everyone chime in. Plotting against Princess Xiaozhu successfully was also based on her own ability. She didn't expect that the person who set the pace was actually Ren Jiaming's man. It was obvious that Ren Jiaming had instructed that person to do so. Yiqing Luo couldn't understand what motive Ren Jiaming had. If you say that he is a hedonistic son of a rich family. However, his talent was outstanding, and he could beat you up to the heavens at any moment. You said that he was a powerful expert, right? He was also shameless, loitering in the bushes of flowers, eating, drinking, whoring, gambling, and anything. However, The good thing about Ren Jianming was that, no matter what he wanted, he would definitely show it on his face. He would never hide it. For example, his ambition for the Windcloud list. For example, his interest in her. Ren Jianming, who was being stared at by Yiqing Luo, indeed, didn't have any bashful expression. Chapter 4270. Fiancé? Ren family's second young master said. Bone Lord's niece is his fiancé? Did I hear wrongly? Fiancé. When did this happen? When did the Ren family and Gu residents form a marriage alliance? Such a huge matter and it's not spread out? Ren Jianming obviously did it on purpose. That sentence was spoken without the slightest bit of concealment. Instantly, it set off thousands of waves. Everyone was stunned by this news. Gu Yun's face flushed red from Ren Jianming's shameless words. Master Ren, what rubbish are you sprouting? Our eldest miss and you are not related at all. What motive do you have to slander our eldest miss's reputation? Ren Jianming had called her fiancé in front of so many onlookers. Wasn't it to intentionally make everyone think that Gu Residence's eldest miss was his fiancé? This was simply trying to destroy eldest miss's innocence. Borrowing the power of public opinion, forcing the Gu residents to have no choice but to marry eldest miss to the Ren family. My goal is naturally to make your young miss my fiancé. Ren Jianming's reply was also very shameless as he grinned. That pair of sinister eyes clearly showed that he was determined to win. Towards Yiqing Luo, he was determined to win. Pui. You're shameless. Gu Yun had never met such a shameless person as the hand which was pointing at Ren Jianming started to tremble. Gu Yun's furious rebuke and Ren Jianming's reply. This made the crowd start to discuss even more. Each and every one of them were pondering when the feelings between the two of them had started. It really made Yiqing Luo and Ren Jianming a couple. Fiancé. Princess Xia Zhu's eyes widened when she heard these three words as her little hand grabbed Yu Ying's hand weakly. Her face was filled with hurt and disbelief. Big Brother Ming had actually personally admitted that that slut was his fiancé. Brother Ming obviously knew her feelings for him. Why did he still do this? Yu Ying felt the person in her arms, and that hand which was grabbing her kept trembling, grabbing her tightly for a moment and then loosening it weakly the next moment. Because of her tense emotions, her breathing gradually became weak from the urgency it had been before. Your Royal Highness, Princess. Yu Ying held Princess Xia Zhu tightly in a panic, and anxiously called out to her. However, Princess Xia Zhu's face was pale. Her twisted face was filled with disbelief and hatred as the light slowly faded away. Yu Ying cried out in alarm. This also interrupted the discussion of the crowd, and they all looked over in unison. Then he discovered, Princess Xia Zhu looked as if she couldn't breathe. Her eyes had already turned white, and she was about to die at any moment. Young miss. Gu Yun's face turned pale when she saw this. If the princess died in the hands of the eldest miss, this matter might be a little troublesome. Especially when Bone Lord was not in the residence before the excellence list was released. If something were to happen, would she really be able to protect eldest miss? Gu Yun tightly pursed her lips, her eyes filled with anxiety and worry. Yiqing Luo squinted her long and narrow eyes, slightly curving into an extremely shallow arc, unable to tell what emotions she was feeling. She just stared at Princess Xia Zhu and raised her eyebrows. However, he did not calmly watch Princess Xia Zhu die as Gu Yun expected. On the contrary, she took out a medicine bottle and threw it beside Yu Ying's feet. The medicine bottle rolled a few rounds and knocked onto Yu Ying's shoes. Chapter 4271. Antidote. Yiqing Luo spread out her hands with an indifferent look. It's up to you to believe it or not. Antidote? Yu Ying's brows twitched as she looked suspiciously at the medicine bottle by her feet. She didn't think that eldest young miss of the Gu residence would be so kind-hearted. But as Princess Xia Zhu's breathing became weaker and weaker, it had reached the stage where she could only exhale but not inhale. Yu Ying's hesitant heart started to waver again. She stared at the unremarkable medicine bottle by her feet. Finally, she gritted her teeth and picked up the medicine bottle. When she raised her eyes, she seemed to be able to see the cold smile hanging on the young lady's lips. As though she had long expected that she would do so, Ewing pursed her lips tightly as her lips turned white from the force. She suppressed the urge to throw the medicine bottle away. Whether this was the antidote or not, she had to give it to Princess Xiaozhu to try. Compared to Princess Xiaozhu's current condition, there was no worse result than now. If this antidote was fake, eldest young miss of the Gu residence would definitely pay the price for this. Ewing gritted her teeth as she opened the medicine bottle. The medicine bottle was filled with liquid. She shook it and heard the sound of water. An extremely unpleasant smell filled their nostrils. Yu Ying's face instantly turned black. What kind of smell was this? She couldn't use words to describe it. It was like all kinds of excrement mixed together. Or like all kinds of rotting corpses mixed together. This thing, how could it possibly enter her stomach? Was eldest young miss of the Gu residence intentionally teasing her? Yu Ying's hand, which was holding the medicine bottle, was about to explode. Her venomous gaze was like a sharp blade as it pierced towards Yiqing Luo. Tsk. I only have this bottle of antidote. If you crush it, whatever happens to your princess, it's none of my business. The young lady's teasing voice rang at this moment. Her eyes curved as her eyes were filled with craftiness. Clearly, he was trying to shirk the responsibility of poisoning Princess Xiaozhu from his words. After all, she had already handed over the antidote. Ewing gritted her teeth as she said word by word, "Eldest young miss, are you sure this is the antidote?" These words were almost squeezed out from the gaps of her teeth. Yiqing Luo looked at her smilingly. "It's up to you whether you believe me or not." Ewing stared at her for a few breaths. Finally, he took a deep breath and poured the indescribable liquid in the bottle into Princess Xiaozhu's mouth. The air was filled with the smell of feces and rotting corpses. Everyone looked at the food that Ewing fed into Princess Xiaozhu's mouth, and their expressions became extremely complicated. He really couldn't imagine what the princess had drunk. This taste was too indescribable. Cough, cough, cough. Suddenly, Princess Xiaozhu, who was on her last breath, coughed violently. The liquid in his mouth was also choked out, following her mouth and face, sliding down. The liquid was dark green and extremely thick. When it flowed out of Princess Xiaozhu's mouth, it almost stained half of her face. "What did you feed this princess? What is this smell?" Princess Xiaozhu let out a shrill roar. She wiped her mouth forcefully. He covered his nose in disgust. Just what was that smell? Why did her mouth feel like it was stuffed with a few balls of feces? "Princess, your highness?" Ewing heard her princess's voice, which had regained its vitality and was so agitated that she was about to cry. Chapter 42-72. Ewing hesitated for a moment before replying, It's the antidote." "Antidote?" Princess Xiaozhu's expression congealed as she suddenly thought of something. Her expression darkened as she looked at Yiqing Luo. It's you, right? What did you feed this princess?" Yiqing Luo smiled. "I'm such a beautiful and pure lady, why would I lie? Look, aren't you detoxified now?" Princess Xiaozhu choked, and her face darkened. She was indeed detoxified. That weak and powerless feeling from before, as if he had lost all his strength, had gradually disappeared. She clenched her fist. The fist vibrated again. His strength had been restored. This meant that Yiqing Luo indeed didn't lie to her. But the smell of this antidote made her unable to not suspect if Yiqing Luo had done it on purpose. "Yiqing Luo." Princess Xiaozhu gritted her teeth as she spat out Yiqing Luo's name. He clenched his fist. Profound waves fluctuated. His eyes were filled with a whirlpool storm, as though it was going to swallow Yiqing Luo whole. In this surging atmosphere, Ren Jiaming stood in the middle of the two women's gazes. It blocked their line of sight. He first looked at Princess Xiaozhu and said, Your Highness, since eldest young mistress has given you the antidote and you are safe and sound, please let this matter go for my sake." Immediately following that, he looked at Yi Qing Luo smilingly with a scorching gaze. "Eldest young miss, don't be afraid. Even if I have to sacrifice the entire Ren family, I will definitely protect you." Saying that, he rubbed his hands as he leaned towards Yi Qing Luo. "Brother Ming." These two obviously different attitudes caused Princess Xia Zhu's expression to turn even uglier. She stomped her feet fiercely, looking at Ren Jiaming's fawning look towards Yi Qing Luo, her face flushed red with anger. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream. Ren Jiaming had yet to get close to Yi Qing Luo. A streak of fiery red flashed before his eyes. He felt a sharp pain in his head. It was the battle pet that could talk. Everyone's gaze immediately fell on Ren Jiaming's head, the red bird that was using its sharp beak to poke Ren Jiaming's head. Like a chicken pecking at rice, the bird kept poking at it. Ren Jiaming screamed in pain. "You pervert! How dare you covet my people? I'll peck you to death! Peck you to death! I also want to peck your eyes!" Ren Jiaming was infuriated. He raised his hand and grabbed the top of his head. The palm wind carried a sharp and profound light. He directly grabbed Qi Yan's wings. Qi Yan struggled a few times but was unable to break free. A few cries came out of its mouth. Then, she immediately used her mouth to kiss Ren Jiaming's hand. "Qi Yan." Yi Qing Luo saw Qi Yan being grabbed by Ren Jiaming and stretched out her hand to snatch it. Ren Jiaming moved sideways, avoiding Yi Qing Luo's outstretched hand, holding Qi Yan's two little wings, shaking it. "This kind of disobedient war pet, what's the use of it? I will give you a better battle pet some other day." His words were filled with killing intent. Killing intent towards Qi Yan. Qi Yan's mouth cried a few more times, its red eyes widened, full of stubbornness, and kept struggling. Ren Jiaming's gaze fell on Qi Yan's face, snorted disdainfully. "So it's a useless war pet, it doesn't even have bird claws and can't fight. Heh, other than being able to talk, I'm afraid it's just a useless broken bird?" His 5 fingers suddenly tightened. He squeezed Qi Yan tightly in his palm. Chapter 4273. Clang. Qi Yan's wings fluttered even more violently. His little head swayed wildly, trying to grab Ren Jiaming's hand. But, as the murderous intent in Ren Jiaming's eyes intensified, the strength of Qi Yan's fluttering also weakened. It was just a few breaths' time. Yi Qing Luo saw Ren Jiaming's 5 fingers tightening. Her eyes shot out a piercingly cold glint. Her body knocked away Gu Yun, who was blocking in front of her. She pounced towards Ren Jiaming. When the young lady pounced over, she brought along a unique fragrance of a young lady, faintly smelling a faint medicinal fragrance. Ren Jiaming's mind swayed. He subconsciously stretched out his hand, trying to catch the young lady who pounced over. The other hand, which was clasping Qi Yan's body, also loosened. Qi Yan took the opportunity to break free from Ren Jiaming's restraint. At the same time, Ren Jiaming's hand, which was stretched out towards Yi Qing Luo, suddenly heard a "kacha" sound. Ren Jiaming gave a muffled groan. An intense pain from the wrist directly spread to the whole body. Between the breath, a fragrant breeze brushed past. Immediately, he saw that red-robed young lady, hugging that struggling bird in her arms. This series of actions, it was just a blink of an eye. "Qi Yan, how are you?" Yi Qing Luo lowered her head, looking at Qi Yan in her arms. Who am I? How could I possibly be in trouble?" Qi Yan's voice was obviously strained, but his mouth still had to put up a brave front. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips, slender as jade fingers, gently stroked Qi Yan's furry little head. Between her slightly drooping brows, a sinister cold arc slowly swept past. She suppressed her voice, long and narrow eyes raised, like a blooming poppy, coquettish, and exuding a suffocating charm. "Qi Yan, want revenge?" The young lady's voice, deep and bewitching, clear and melodious, but it made the surrounding air seem to condense a few degrees. Qi Yan's eyes lit up, yes. Yi Qing Luo's smile deepened, her peripheral vision faintly glanced at Ren Jiaming's direction. All right. Brother Ming. Princess Xiaozhu, who had recovered her strength, suddenly rushed over and hugged Ren Jiaming's arm. Her worried voice contained a tinge of sobbing. What happened to your hand? Does it hurt? Ren Jiaming frowned, but he did not push Princess Xiaozhu away. He silently withdrew the hand that Princess Xiaozhu was hugging and placed it on his other arm, which was still in pain. With a kacha sound, the bones were set. Ren Jiaming's face turned pale, but he didn't show any other emotions. After setting the bones, he shook his hand and his gaze was glued to Yi Qing Luo. Eldest young miss is really ruthless. If anything happens to my hand, eldest young miss will have to take responsibility. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows as she hugged Qi Yan and squinted at Ren Jiaming. Her rosy lips curled up into a mysterious smile. Ruthless? There are even fiercer ones. Do you want to try? The girl's light voice carried a trace of coldness. As her words fell, Yi Zichen's expression changed. There was even a gust of cold wind blowing around them. The girl's waterfall-like black hair danced in the wind. Her fiery red dress was also burning like a raging flame. It further accentuated the young girl's devastatingly beautiful face, adding a bit of unattainable holiness. Ren Jiaming was almost mesmerized by her. His eyes were filled with thick lust. As long as it's bestowed by eldest young miss. This young master is willing to die of pain. This kind of sweet words, Ren Jiaming could say it casually. That gaze, that expression, that tone. He was clearly a lecherous hedonistic son of a rich family. Chapter 4274. Brother Ming. Don't. Princess Xiaozhu didn't give up as she stretched out her arms to hug Ren Jiaming. Before she could finish her words, she was interrupted by Yi Qing Luo's voice. Really? How can I believe Mr. Ren's words? Ren Jiaming's eyes lit up as he strode towards Yi Qing Luo. How would eldest young miss believe me? Princess Xiaozhu threw herself into his arms. Coincidentally, she missed her target. She staggered a few steps, and if it wasn't for Yu Ying who supported her in time, she would have fallen onto the ground. However, Ren Jiaming seemed as though he didn't notice what was happening behind him. In his eyes, he could only see Yi Qing Luo alone. Brother Ming. Princess Xiaozhu bit her lips in grievance, not allowing her tears to flow down. At this moment, Ren Jiaming's eyes were indeed only filled with Yi Qing Luo alone. When he reached Yi Qing Luo, his shoulders paused as he looked at her with a fiery gaze. Eldest young miss. The smile on Yi Qing Luo's lips turned a little strange. But Ren Jiaming, who was mesmerized by her beauty, didn't see it. Just as he was about to stretch out his hand to hug Yi Qing Luo, suddenly, his face turned pale. His forehead was covered with beads of sweat. His body twitched as he curled up into a ball and fell onto the ground. Ren Jiaming groaned in pain. His body felt as though there were numerous sharp needles piercing into his internal organs and limbs. Just a slight movement. Like a sharp blade, it cut a huge wound in his body. In fact, he could even feel the viscous liquid surging within his body. Pain. Heart-wrenching pain. The pain was unbearable. Ren Jiaming had never suffered such torment since he was born. He fell onto the ground, twitching. Brother Ming. When Princess Xiaozhu heard Ren Jiaming falling onto the ground, she couldn't care less about the anger in her heart as she screamed and dashed towards Ren Jiaming. Ren Jiaming fell, causing the surrounding crowd to fall into a state of panic. Brother Ming, Brother Ming! Princess Xiaozhu had just stretched out her hand to touch Ren Jiaming's face when her wrist was gripped tightly by a force. The strong force almost broke Princess Xiaozhu's wrist. When Yu Ying saw Princess Xiaozhu's red hands, she immediately wanted to help. However, Princess Xiaozhu stopped him. This was the first time Brother Ming had taken the initiative to hold her hand. She didn't want to lose the chance to be intimate with Big Brother Ming just like that. Ren Jiaming. Due to the intense pain all over his body, he had long since lost his rationality. At this moment, he grabbed Princess Xia Zhu's wrist tightly because he wanted to release the pain in his body. First, miss, what have you done to Mr. Ren? Yuing raised her head and stared furiously at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo hugged Qi Yan as she stood there quietly, facing Yu Ying's question. Her lips curled into a cold smile. Didn't he say that he was willing? Then let me see how long his willingness can last. You bitch! Brother Ming would never be willing to be with you. Hand over the antidote. Hand it over! Princess Xia Zhu roared hysterically. Yiqing Luo smiled as her brows were filled with calmness. Really? Then why don't you ask him if he is willing to bear this kind of pain? Ren Jianming, who was in so much pain that he lost his rationality, didn't know why, but he heard Yiqing Luo's words. He gripped Princess Xia Zhu's wrist tightly. Chapter 4275. Yes. This young master, for eldest young miss, is willing. When he spat out the last 4 words, Ren Jianming was in so much pain that his entire body was twitching. Princess Xia Zhu only felt that her heart was pierced by a sharp knife, dripping with fresh blood. The pain was unbearable. She stared at the man who was in so much pain that his tears couldn't stop falling. It was painful. Heartache. Why, she loved Brother Ming so much. But he didn't even give her a glance? Your Highness! Yuing held on to Princess Xia Zhu's shoulder with heartache as she comforted her softly. This is young Master Ren's own choice, Your Highness. Let's go back to the palace. Stay here any longer. It would only hurt Princess's heart. This was the first time Yuing saw Ren Jianming being so persistent towards a lady. No. This princess is not going back. Princess Xia Zhu bit her lips so hard that her lips started to bleed. Her eyes were red as she stared at Ren Jianming in a daze. This princess wants to accompany Brother Ming. He will know that only this princess loves him the most. Heh! A clear sneer entered their ears. Xia Zhu stared with her scarlet eyes as she looked towards the direction of the voice. When she saw the face of the sneer clearly, Xia Zhu's face instantly darkened. What are you laughing at? Yiqing Luo didn't answer her, only giving an ambiguous smile. From Xia Zhu's angle, she could see clearly that the young lady's pair of icy cold eyes was filled with a trace of coldness without any warmth. Her spine suddenly felt a chill, as if there was an icy cold snake winding around her. Immediately after, she saw Yiqing Luo slowly opening her arms. That blazing bird in her arms slowly fluttered its wings, circling around Yiqing Luo for one round. Go Qi Yan. Peck his eyes out. The young lady's smile was sweet, but the words that came out from her mouth made one's heart turn cold. Qi Yan raised its little head as it cried out. Its little body was like a fireball as it charged towards Ren Jianming. How dare you! Xia Zhu immediately pounced forward, blocking in front of Ren Jianming. Qi Yan sneered as it fluttered its wings, causing a gust of wind, blowing directly towards Xia Zhu's face. Instantly, that indescribable smell which was fed into Xia Zhu's mouth instantly spread out. Scarlet Flame's small body suddenly drilled. His sharp beak was aimed accurately at Ren Jianming's eyes. Wait! Yuing suddenly cried out anxiously. She immediately supported her princess and raised her head to look at Yiqing Luo, eldest young miss. Today's matter is all because of the personal enmity between Her Majesty and you, and has nothing to do with Mr. Ren. If we want to settle it, we should settle it in the most reliable and fair way. This shout was loud and clear. This made Qi Yan stop his movements. It raised its head and looked at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as a glint flashed past her eyes. Personal enmity? I have just arrived at the Heaven Realm. Do I know her? What personal grudge? Yu Ying's complexion sank and her lips squirmed, but she couldn't utter a single word for a long time. On the other hand, Princess Xia Zhu straightened her back after hearing Yu Ying's words and looked at Yiqing Luo fearlessly. It's this princess who deliberately found trouble with you, it's this princess who has enmity with you. Although today's matter was provoked by this princess, but there must be a solution to the matter of you poisoning this princess and the second young master of the Ren family. Chapter 4276. Princess Xia Zhu and Yu Ying exchanged glances and hurriedly continued, "You have Bone Lord's protection, so I can't kill you. Then I can only choose a compromise." She paused as her gaze gradually turned ruthless. "Let's have a fair competition that won't hurt ourselves." Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as a glint flashed past. She had roughly guessed their plan. The next moment, Princess Xia Zhu's gaze fell onto Qi Yan. Her gaze turned cold as she pointed to Qi Yan. "Let's use both our battle pets to battle." The moment she said that, it made the surrounding crowd drew in a cold breath. Princess Xia Zhu really dares to say that. That red bird. Although it can speak, but its battle power is too weak. It doesn't have any battle ability at all. Its claws seem to be damaged. How can a battle pet with no battle ability possibly fight against Princess Xia Zhu's battle pet? Princess Xia Zhu's battle pet. I've heard that when Princess Xia Zhu was 13 years old, the Emperor gathered hundreds of elite cultivators to head to Heavenly Beast Mountain to capture a god-grade magical beast. Its battle power is extremely ferocious. Isn't Princess Xia Zhu bullying others? Previously, when Princess Xia Zhu saw that eldest Miss Gu's battle pet could speak, she wanted to take it by force. Now when she saw that eldest Miss Gu's battle pet was a battle pet without any battle power, she thought of this idea? Wasn't this obviously digging a pit for Yiqing Luo? Because, based on their identities, it was destined that this battle had to be fought. If Yiqing Luo rejected, that was to reject Princess Xia Zhu's request for peace, which meant to go against the royal family till the end. Because the excuse that Princess Xia Zhu used was, because of their identities, only two battle pets could ensure that both parties wouldn't get hurt, and at the same time give an explanation. If Yiqing Luo accepted, what a joke! A battle pet without any battle power, how could it go against a god-grade magical beast? Princess Xia Zhu's battle pet raised its claws, and that bird would become a meat patty, all right. Moreover, if she lost, she would lose the Gu residence's reputation. Anyway, no matter what Yiqing Luo chose, it wouldn't benefit her at all. Princess Xia Zhu, you're going too far. Gu Yun pursed her lips and looked displeased. Princess Xia Zhu sneered and looked down at the man who was twitching in pain. Going too far? Isn't eldest Miss going too far? He poisoned her and forced her to consume the antidote with that smell. Right now, she could feel that her body was covered with the smell of decay. And elder Brother Ming, I don't know what kind of poison that bitch gave Brother Ming to cause him to be in so much pain. Since that bitch used such a despicable method and was so overbearing, then don't blame me for using underhanded means to protect Brother Ming. Apparently, Princess Xia Zhu had long forgotten that right from the start, she was the one who stirred up trouble, and it was her who had the murderous intent towards Yiqing Luo, which led to Yiqing Luo's retaliation. Lady, Gu Yun was worried. Her battle pet is a divine-level combat bear beast. She can't fight. If they fought, it was to push Qi Yan to the road of death. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered slightly and her gaze fell on Qi Yan. Her charming eyes were filled with a serene light. She couldn't tell her current emotions. Qi Yan's ability was obviously sealed by the barbaric blood Bone King. The current Qi Yan was just an ordinary pet. Chapter 4277. But, based on Qi Yan's character, it couldn't not fight. As expected, the next moment, Qi Yan, which was hovering above Rinjiaming, flew back to Yiqing Luo's side. I'll fight. When Qi Yan said these two words, its red eyes shone with a resolute light. It was one of the four sacred beasts, Vermilion Bird. There were even people who bullied it. How could it admit defeat? Yiqing Luo didn't reveal a surprised expression, as her expression was very calm. Are you sure? Sure. Qi Yan raised its long neck. You're the person I'm protecting. If they want to bully you, they have to see if I agree or not. Little Qi Yan's words were extremely arrogant. Hearing it saying, "You're the person I'm protecting," Yi Qing Luo's brows softened. She faced Qi Yan and slowly raised her hand. Qi Yan fluttered its wings as its little body fell into her palm. The young lady's slender fingers gently caressed Qi Yan's head. Little by little, the tip of his finger gently brushed her forehead. Qi Yan squinted its red eyes comfortably. It felt that along with the young lady's caressing action, its body seemed to be wrapped by a warm current which was very comfortable. It hadn't had the time to think carefully. Yi Qing Luo's clear voice rang softly. "If you want to fight, then go ahead and fight. I'll bear all the consequences." Her voice was clear and melodious, but it inexplicably gave it a huge confidence. Qi Yan's eyes seemed to be releasing a raging flame, jumping with joy like a fire spirit. "Eldest Miss." Gu Yun's expression tightened when she heard Yi Qing Luo's words and immediately cried out, "You can't fight! You really can't fight!" She really couldn't understand. Eldest Miss was obviously clear. Qi Yan's claws were not only corroded. It had no fighting ability at all. Bone Lord placed Qi Yan by Eldest Miss's side, just to let Qi Yan chat with Eldest Miss to relieve her boredom. How could a small Qi Yan be a match for a battle-type God-grade magical beast? It wasn't that Gu Yun was boosting other people's morale and diminishing her own, but the truth was as such. She clutched her sleeves tightly and continued anxiously, "Eldest Miss, this servant has already sent a message to the Gu residents. Gu Jun will definitely think of a way to protect Eldest Mississippi. Eldest Miss doesn't need to accept Princess Xia Zhu's challenge." "Why not?" Qi Yan glared at Gu Yun. "I can protect my own people. Are you looking down on me?" As it spoke, it fluttered its wings excitedly. He even shook his head excitedly. Then, without waiting for Gu Yun to speak, with a whooshing sound, it flew into the sky. Then, it spun in the air like a ball of raging fire, and stopped in front of Princess Xia Zhu. "Come. Call out that useless battle pet of yours." Qi Yan's clamor was very arrogant. The way it flapped its little wings in midair looked comical and ridiculous. Princess Xia Zhu's face was livid. She stared at the little thing that was clamoring in front of her, and curled her lips coldly. "You overestimate yourself." As soon as he finished speaking, a tyrannical aura burst forth from her body. Endless dark force shot into the sky. Bang! There was a deafening explosion. Everyone felt the ground shaking for a moment. Immediately following that, their eyes were covered by a black shadow, only to see by Princess Xia Zhu's side. A huge object which was as tall as a house appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Its huge body occupied more than half of the space. Chapter 4278. The huge beast's brown fur was like an indestructible armor, firmly protecting its huge body. That was a bear. A huge bear beast. The moment it appeared, it roared. Roar, 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 roar. While roaring, those two thick claws were raised up high. The ground cracked and shook incessantly. "Xia, Princess Xia Zhu's Xiong has appeared." The crowd looked at the bear beast in astonishment, their eyes were filled with shock and amazement. This was a god-grade magical beast. A battle-type bear beast. One strike was equivalent to 10 sage mystic to god mystic realm cultivators. They had heard of it before. Someone had attempted to kidnap the Emperor's most beloved Princess Xia Zhu and sent out 10 god mystic realm assassins. Among them, there was one whose profound grade had already reached the god mystic realm, peak of 8th grade. But he was still smashed into meat paste by this battle-type bear beast named Xiong. It showed how terrifying this battle pet was. The talismans were all summoned. Princess Xia Zhu was full of confidence as she arrogantly raised her chin, putting on a superior expression as she looked at Yi Qing Luo, eldest young miss of the Gu residence. "This princess is magnanimous and can give you a chance to admit defeat. As long as you hand over Brother Ming's antidote and sincerely apologize to this princess, This princess will be merciful and let you off. The current situation. The battle between the battle pet and the battle pet. Yiqing Luo could not interfere, nor could she secretly poison it. Yiqing Luo had no chance of winning at all. That useless bird which could speak human language would definitely die. Thinking of this, the expression on Princess Xia Zhu's face became more and more complacent. This beast will give you a chance to admit defeat. Kneel down and sincerely apologize to this beast. This beast will be merciful and forgive you too, blind master and servant. In terms of mouth, other than Yiqing Luo, Qi Yan didn't lose to anyone else. In front of one of the 4 sacred beasts, Vermilion Bird Sacred Beast, to use a small god-grade magical beast to act cool? What a big face! Even if its power was damaged and its beast energy was sealed. But did it really think that Vermilion Bird Sacred Beast had an undeserved reputation? Xia Zhu, who was choked by a bird's low laughter, her face instantly turned gloomy as her venomous gaze fiercely cut Qi Yan. This useless bird was as disgusting as its master. When Xiong Batian subdued it, then she would pull out its tongue. Let's see how arrogant it was. Xia Zhu and Yu Ying supported Ren Jianming and retreated behind Xiong Batian. Then, he ordered, "Xiong Batian, kill it!" Roar! Xiong Batian let out a roar as he waved his thick bear paws. It was a huge, battle-type bear beast. One was a useless bird beast that was the size of 2 palms and did not have sharp claws. There was no chance. Immediately, someone laughed out, "Ling bird, Ling beast, Xiong king, as long as Xiong Batian slaps down, do you think that bird can survive? The disparity in strength is too great. I really don't know what the young miss of the Gu residence is thinking. Why must she send her little pet to its death?" He's not willing to apologize, nor is he willing to let the matter rest. He can only push his pet out to die. I feel sorry for that bird. Even if it's a useless bird, it's still a rare breed which can speak human language. It's better to keep it by her side and chat with her to relieve her boredom. Her master didn't express anything, what's the use of feeling heartache?